Hello, we are broadcasting live. I need to share the page so people can see because I didn't announce this. It's unannounced. I only announce new videos on Twitter, no other place. Nowhere else will I ever announce a new video. All right, here we go. Friday night, 8:58 p.m. Let's hope this works. Let me click the link and see. Here it is. Here it is. Hello. All right. I got a notification from myself to myself that I'm live. So that's good. It's a good news. Unannounced. I am editing many new videos. A good 10, 20 videos. And because they won't be done, I wanted to do a live stream. So let me just play the guitar for the first time in many years. I don't know if you saw my video, David Bowie Saw the Devil. I played an original guitar piece at the beginning of that video. And in no way, shape, or form was that video for clickbait. I made the video before David Bowie passed away, rest in peace. I made the video and I wrote the song. I wrote the song in about 15 minutes. And I changed the lyrics as I was recording it, which would have been easily the third time I ever even attempted to play it. When I recorded it for that video, I changed the lyrics a little bit on the fly, and I might change them now. I'm going to perform David Bowie Saw the Devil live on this live stream. I wrote it in around, I remember it was October, November of 2015. Very few months before he passed away. Had nothing to do with, no one knew. He kept it a secret to the public. No one knew he was fatally ill. Rest in peace. David Bowie has since ascended into the higher dimensions. Thank you, Brandon Young, for the, maybe we'll have, I might invite people after this song, after the performance. We shall see. I'm going to be a little rusty. I haven't played the guitar pretty much since 2015. We're talking 3 to 4 years I haven't really played. And even when I played, I don't even know why I made that song. I was just inspired to make a cool song mentioning David Bowie. It's actually the second song I ever wrote mentioning Bowie. Back in 2007. Back in 2007, I wrote a song and I put a lyric in there about Bowie. No big deal. You might be able to see it on my SoundCloud. I can't remember. But no, I'm not sick anymore, at least not too badly. I think I got bronchitis and then the flu, 2 separate illnesses. And I would say I'm mostly over the flu and mostly over the bronchitis. So hopefully it wasn't acute. It was just the passing kind that will go away. That's the best kind. All right. Build up your immune system, So keep your lungs clean. Don't inhale dust. I was inhaling dust from this river rock I moved, and about 5 tons of river rock was ordered. And I picked it up and I put it in its places. And they mix in dirt with the river rock because they don't care. They sell it by the weight. And so they get to sell dirt as if it's river rock. And in the process of transporting all these rocks, the dirt gets pulverized into a fine powder. So fine that it's way easy to inhale accidentally. I just picked up the rocks and I accidentally inhaled it. I think I got bronchitis from that. So I'm going to wear a mask next time I move those rocks because my jeans were covered in dust and it was very dusty thing going on. But independent of that, I think just contact with the outside world, I got a cold. So, stay safe. I'm going to play When David Bowie Saw the Devil for the first time since 2015. I don't know how it's going to go. We will see what happens. I'm recording this with a second camera live. I'm recording the audio and video with a second camera. And I don't know if there's anything that's going to be visible, but I can tell you this. Before the break, before I came back to set up, there were orbs flying every which way. There was an orb that went. It was very obviously not dust. Hopefully we can capture something like that. Maybe not. We shall see. I noticed in certain lighting, I have a light over here reflecting off the wall, bouncing back at me because it's too bright to be directly in front of my face. And in certain lighting, you can see orbs really clearly. In some lighting, they're 100% visible. I noticed at the Safeway parking lot, I was there around 3 p.m. And it was the perfect sunlight reflecting through the trees into my car. I could see orbs. And most of the time, you cannot see them. So it's an unusual phenomenon, whether it's simply dust or particles in the air. It's up to interpretation. But when you see them do sophisticated moves, and you know for a fact it's not a gnat or a little fly, I do believe you can find intelligently moving orbs. It's fairly rare. All right, let me just get warmed up. One person said, I easily received 100 negative comments on this video, David Bowie Saw the Devil, from guitar fans. I know because I clicked on their page and they were like metal. They're like metal heads, and they didn't like the song. They hated the song. That's their problem. But I wrote this from scratch. It's 100% original. I don't cliche play the guitar because YouTube 2008 was nothing but people playing the guitar. Oh my gosh. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to play some guitar. Let's see. I'm not very good. I'm a pretty amateur, all right? I only know a few folk chords, and these are a few of the folk chords that I know. I arranged them originally, and I don't know how. Let's just give it a shot. All right. Someone said, oh, you only play the pick One Direction? First of all, I purposely in this song play the pick One Direction because the sound is very distinctly, vastly different than you play it both. I'm actually really good at strumming back and forth. I'll give you a shot. I'll give you a little demonstration. That's how I wanted the song to sound, but I can strum it back and forth. It sounds vastly different. It's too noisy. It sounds too noisy when you strum back and forth. I like the strumming back and forth for certain songs. I definitely practiced strumming back and forth. I can strum back and forth anything. But as you can see, it's too noisy. Strumming is too noisy. So that's why I purposely play One Direction strumming in this song. So let's see if I remember the chords and the lyrics. Maybe I added some lyrics. We shall see. It's probably going to be a disaster. If I mess up, I might start again from the beginning. I don't know. I'm not very good. Let's try it. All right. should see what happens when I actually try. I mess it up. Let me cool down. That's the I made the bridge way too busy, and the chorus is really slow and easy. All right, let's give it a shot. David Bowie saw the devil's pool. He has some devil's rose. David Bowie believes in the devil more than he believes he knows. Ex-witness the holy band, packed their bags and went. Moved from their residence, President Row residence. David Bowie knows what he saw. It cannot be unseen. Was not a bad trip or a dream. Ex-witness wrote a biography. Hallucinations there were many, but he knows what he saw. Waters exercise, hypnotize elemental snake eyes. Paranoid pitch to the cherry lich. Last dish was the white witch. Alchemical black stars and stripes, vanishing books from their spikes. Dismal death could not be banished. Before one refused to vanish. David Bowie knows what he saw. It cannot be unseen. It was not a bad trip or a dream. Ex-witness wrote a biography. Hallucinations there were many, but he knows what he saw. My fingers hurt. My fingers hurt. Oh my gosh, that's horrible. I messed up 1,000 times. All right. But you heard the live version, a new extra couple lines. David Bowie saw the devil. All right. All right. Thank you for the comments. Yeah, thank you. Okay. I know I'm not that good. Trust me, I haven't played since... We're talking December 2015. It's probably the last time I played. I'm not that good. I don't practice ever. I practiced today like 2 times, and I don't have calluses, and my fingers hurt really bad. It took me about an hour to find a pick. It's the only pick in my entire room I could find. Whew. All right. So, we can discuss different ghost investigation things. I don't know. Let's see. Got this little thing I can click and invite people. I don't know if anyone wants to join us. I don't know. I don't know if anyone wants to join us. But if you want to join us, I'm going to just send a couple links out. We shall see. I mean, some people want to join us. Some people don't. I don't know. But I'm definitely going to... these people are busy. These people are busy. They don't want to join. But if anyone does want to join, let me know. And if you're totally busy, it's a Friday night. No big deal. So I did see orbs. If anyone sees orbs, let me know. If anyone sees some orbs, let me know. I wish I recorded it, but I just did a test. I was doing a test with the camera to make sure everything's in frame. And I was holding the guitar and I was just testing. I wasn't even playing. And I saw orb after orb after orb. I saw an orb even fly straight up to the camera. And it was white and whoosh, very fast. Maybe it was dust. Maybe it was dust. But I don't know. That's why I'm recording with a second camera, just in case we can get two angles and make a determination if it's debunked and just a piece of dust or something intelligent. I'm not turning on any devices because it encourages the spirits. You don't want to encourage the spirits in a room where you sleep, because you don't want to wake up at 2 a.m. with an entity moving stuff. Seems outlandish, seems impossible. But about 1 year ago, an entity picked up objects on my desk right over there. And, luckily I've been pretty safe ever since. It's just, actually, you know what? I can tell you this. We had a power outage a couple weeks ago. Easily 3 weeks ago, there was a power outage, and it was the second outage that week. A couple days, maybe 1 week prior, there was a power outage that lasted maybe 4 hours. And then a week later, there was a power outage that lasted about the same, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. I lost track because I took a nap. And there's not much you can do when I got home from work and the power was out. The traffic lights were all off and the cops were directing traffic. And luckily, I have a bunch of ghost investigation equipment, which includes, I have a flashlight on my hat, clip on a flashlight. I turned that on and I could see everything fine. And, I was just going to take a nap because there's nothing to do. Can't watch TV, can't use the internet. And I was pretty tired from work. So I was looking in my room and I saw a freaking orb. I distinctly saw an orb. It vanished, but it was pretty distinct and pretty big. It looked about this, a little bit smaller than a golf ball. And I don't know if it was a refraction of light. I don't know if he was intelligent, but it definitely looked like it wasn't supposed to be there. And he was floating over my bed. Pretty freaky. Anyway, I'm on the fence on a lot of different ghost things. Sometimes it's a spirit. Sometimes it's just natural environmental causes. All right. So I don't know if anyone wants to join us, but if you do, let me know, So Brandon said he might join us. I'm working on a lot of stuff. I'm working on, believe it or not, I recorded the guitarist from the Pixies play his famous riff from Where Is My Mind? And I was front row at a comedy tent event with one of my favorite comedians, Harland Williams. And Harland gave his hilarious set with jokes that, I can't repeat all of them. But Harland is a nice medium of jokes. I just like his sense of humor. He doesn't take himself too seriously, or at least his jokes are really, they hit you, from totally bizarre angles. You don't know where he's going to be coming from next. He's a pretty funny guy. Definitely one of my favorite comedians. So I was there for Harland Williams. And then there's a guy named Skylar Stone. I've never heard of him, to be honest. I'm going to be honest. I never heard of him, but he's a funny comedian. And he did his set. And then there were a couple other comedians that did their set. And then Skylar Stone, I guess, was running the whole comedy thing. It was at the, believe it or not, the Foo Fighters. I've never been to a Foo Fighters concert in my life, but, Dave Grohl, he's definitely a talented guy, drummer from Nirvana. And the whole scene of the entire festival, it was called the Cal Jam. Cal Jam. So I was in Santa Bernardino for Cal Jam. On the fly, I decided to go. The tickets for one day weren't that bad. I wanted to see Billy Idol, so I got to see Billy Idol in concert, and then I got to see Harlan Williams, one of my favorite comedians. And Skylar Stone had the lead guitarist from the Pixies perform Where Is My Mind on the fly on a guitar that was just sitting there. And I filmed the whole thing. So I filmed the whole thing, and I could tell Dave Grohl, I never saw him. I didn't watch the Nirvana reunion the next day. I didn't see it. But because I only got the one ticket for the Billy Idol show and for the comedy show that night. I probably would have gone to the Nirvana reunion if I knew Chris Novoselic was going to be there playing bass with Dave Grohl. I don't know if Pat Smear was there or not, probably. And I think they had Joan Jett be the place of Kurt. And Kurt definitely wouldn't have been opposed to Joan Jett. Kurt was a huge supporter of female rock and rollers. And I read his journal, as many people did. Kurt Cobain's journal was mass-produced and published and put in Barnes & Noble, so I got a copy of it. Being a huge fan, I read it many, many years ago. He's too famous of an individual, so this video might bomb. Usually when I make a video about Kurt Cobain, it gets the super fans, they go crazy. They just talk about how blah, 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 so-and-so killed, yada, yada, yada. It's a conspiracy. And I didn't want to talk about that. But, you know, the super fans and the bandwagon death fans, I was a fan before he died, personally. Nirvana Nevermind is the second album I ever bought. The second album, Nirvana Nevermind. And the first album I ever bought, I might have it around here somewhere because I actually kept it. And this is when I was poor and I was a little kid. So I bought the cassettes. I bought the cassette of Faith No More, their debut album, and then Nirvana Nevermind. Faith No More, The Real Thing, or no, it's called The Real Thing? Or is that the hit song, The Real Thing? I don't know, I can't remember. But I definitely bought it. I bought the vinyl version, blah, blah, blah. So Faith No More's debut album, and then Nirvana Nevermind, and then I bought, all my friends were huge Nirvana fans. And so I bought Nirvana Bleach. It came out. We're like looking for the newest. And Nirvana Bleach wasn't new, but it was new to us because David Geffen mass produced it after their huge hit. And then Incesticide, the B-sides came out. And of course, the B-sides in Nirvana are better than the A-sides of most other bands. But the atmosphere at Cal Jam, this would have been 2018. Cal Jam 2018 is what I went to. You know, there was a lake, nice, peaceful lake, and David Grohl clearly put a sign in front of it which said Lake Nevermind. And, you know, that was a nice, peaceful gesture. And people, Skylar Stone said, everybody's here. Joan Jett, everybody. Even Kurt Cobain's here. And he's like, he's rest in peace. He's gone. And he accidentally said that. And it's possible. It's possible Kurt's spirit could have attended. It's hard to say. I wanted to make a video on it of my filming of what's his name? What's the lead guitar player of the Pixies name? His name is what's his name?
Frank Black?
No, it's not Frank Black. It's I'm not gonna remember.
I don't know. I just know him.
I'm a big Pixies fan, but I don't know the Pixies band members' individual names.
Yeah, they met at UMass. They have a song called UMass.
Oh, yeah?
UMass.
Well, I feel so stupid. Let me look it up. Because I am a huge fan of this guy's guitar playing. He's very talented. I see you have your guitar. What kind of guitar is that?
This is a very rare vintage 1980. Not no, I think 1980 or 79. Dan Electro.
Cool. 79, huh?
Oh, that it has 4 lipstick pickups.
Wow, those are pretty weird looking pickups. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, they make a whole like they're like instead of like the humbucker pickups,
Mm-hmm.
which is like a Fender.
So futuristic looking.
Well, they're kind of retro actually. These are like
Mm-hmm.
the guy that makes Dan Electro. He makes surfboards, and but anyway, long story. But I like the purple too. It's kind of cool. But yeah, and it's got a tremolo.
Tremolo, yeah.
Yeah, whatever. So, what was I gonna say? Yeah, it's got like the D.
Cool.
But it's called the Hodad, is what it's called. And
the Hodad.
Yeah, they have funny names. They have like Dan Electro has some really cool pedals and stuff. Yeah, these lipstick pickups, they give like a fuller sound. You know what I mean? Than like a humbucker pickup, which is great anyway. But it just like it gives the fuller sound as you can imagine because it's magnetic coil. You know what I mean?
You can see the TV in the reflection.
Oh no! Yeah, let me set that off. There you go. Okay.
So I was just, his name is Joey Santiago, the lead guitarist of the Pixies, Joey Santiago, very talented musician. I got to film him riff the Where Is My Mind song for a few seconds on a crappy guitar that happened to be there on the comedy stage because it's pretty clear Skylar Stone is a huge fan and he set it up for that to happen. But it was cool because I was front row for Harlan Williams. I filmed that. And after Joey Santiago got on stage and he was interviewing him, Skylar Stone was just asking him questions, what was it like, this and that. And a freaking ghost walked through my body front to back. No joke. It happens to me all the time, though, so it's not that phenomenal. But it came front to back. So I wonder if it was one of the people on the stage. There was a big group of people behind the stage. You never know with spirits. You never know. I'm not going to jump to conclusion that he was any particular ghost, but there was a freaking ghost who walked through me very distinctly. I wrote down the time. I think it was like 1:20 a.m. This show kept going way later than scheduled because all the comedians wanted to give their full sets, and no one cared because most of the people were camping. I had to drive home in my car, but it was a really cool event. I recommend Cal Jam. I normally wouldn't, but I recommend it. It was a pretty cool atmosphere, pretty awesome. And you're going to play us a song on the guitar?
I don't think it's in tune. I don't know. I could, but no, I don't know.
So it's a Dan Electro?
The Dan Electro guitar.
Cool.
Sounds better with it tuned up and plugged in. But let's see, you're talking about Nirvana. Hold on.
Oh, that aneurysm?
Yeah. Anyway.
Cool. Yeah, the only Nirvana song I know is Come As You Are, the super simple one.
Oh.
I can't play anything.
I learned that on bass, actually.
Yeah.
It's open, open.
I just use it to tune my guitar,
Yeah. Oh, there it is.
That's all I know.
That's it. That's all it is, really.
Yeah.
How about this? You might know this one. I'll do it on a higher string. Oh.
I don't know. What's that?
That's width of a circle. David Bowie.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know too many non-famous. I mean, I don't know too many famous songs. I just messed around with the folk chords book with 30 chords, and that's all I know, and I barely know that.
I never had one lesson. I was gonna say this, John. Do you remember we first collaborated on the flat Earth thing, and I played the stupid idiot that used the Akalabeth as evidence for flat Earth.
Yeah, you're pretending to be a flat earther, and some people didn't figure it. People thought you were, and they thought I was bullying you.
They still do. But anyway, so
yeah.
But we had like this abstract, weird war back and forth, and like so there's one where I wore like a hat and glasses, and I wore this like jacket, and I got out the Bible, and I played Eyes Wide Shut music, and copyright immediately. But that very moment, as I was doing that, my best friend Justin died in that very moment.
Yeah, you told me. I personally think it's a coincidence. You know, I mean, everyone has to die when other things simultaneously have to happen, and sometimes there's just.
Well, I'm not going to do it ever again. Blaspheme like that, even for fun. But anyway, point is, he was an awesome drummer, and he was a huge Kurt Cobain fan, and he had every Kurt Cobain this or that poster, rare this, rare that, and he was he could drum like Dave Grohl, and that's tough. Like like There Goes My Hero is really tough. A lot of Nirvana songs are pretty heavy on the drums, man, and he was such a great musician. He kind of taught me everything I know in a way, but yeah, it just reminded me of that.
Yeah.
And you're saying like this is the thing you're talking about, people being fans of Nirvana before they were famous, or before they were like, he was 100% like before they
I was just talking about before he was dead.
Before he was dead. Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah.
So my guest is Brandon Young. Someone asked who my guest is. It's Brandon Young. He's a regular. He's been in the back. He's been on the channel, many different videos over the years, And, he's also a moderator on the chat, just in case someone, occasionally we get some people that,
let's see.
Nah, everything looks good,
Wow, just in case.
But, yeah.
I got some questions.
I read it. Speaking of Nirvana, I read a super obscure interview with Kurt Cobain while he was alive. This would have been 1992. I was in the grocery store. I opened up a magazine. It was probably Hit Parader or maybe Guitarist magazine or Guitar magazine or one of those corny rock magazines. I can't remember all the names. Like Circus. Might have been Circus magazine. Anyway, the interviewer was blasé, just interviewing Kurt because he wasn't dead yet. He was just an up-and-comer rock star. And he's like, oh, so you like playing the guitar? You like being the front man? And Kurt said, not really. He said, I wish I was the drummer. I wish I was like Ringo, like in the back. No one paid attention to me. He said that's what he wanted. He said he wanted to be the drummer in the back, not in the forefront in the limelight. And the interviewer said, oh, you know how to drum? And Kurt said, yeah. Kurt said, the reason I picked Dave Grohl is because he can drum as good as I can.
Wow. Really?
And I've never heard this interview or seen it ever again. And so apparently Kurt could drum very well, and no one knows about it. No one in the history of Nirvana fandom knows. Unless it was a fake interview. I don't think so. It was either in Circus magazine, Hit Parader, or Guitar magazine back in 1992. I didn't buy it. I just read it and then I put it back.
Yeah.
But I wish I did buy it because I was just a little kid. I couldn't afford it.
Right.
But I remember the interview word for word. And I thought it was very interesting that he said David Grohl, I think he even did say, Dave Grohl's way better than Chad Channing.
Yeah.
Grohl can play as good as me. And I was like, wow. And when you actually look at the history, Kurt wrote the drums for the early Nirvana albums.
That's right.
Only in Utero did Dave Grohl have that creative ability to do all the drums, or at least most of the drums. So Kurt was writing the drums and the guitar for the early Nirvana songs. People don't know that. So that's pretty interesting.
I wonder if he did the bass as well. I don't know.
Well, I could see Chris Novoselic doing the bass.
Yeah,
Chris and Kurt were very close since a young age. They even had a B plan. Their B plan, if they didn't become rock stars, were to form their own waste disposal sanitary company. And they even drew, it was hilarious. At least you can see it in his journal. Yeah. They had a backup plan of their own waste management, little janitorial service. And Kurt, I think, even drew pictures, and they even had a name for it. It was pretty funny. But, that's how close they were. They were going to be janitors in their own business.
When we were going to form the first band, Nirvana had a band before they were called Nirvana. And they were called, like Kurt wanted to call them Bliss, which is Nirvana, I guess, so but he wanted to call them Bliss. And I always thought that was a great name.
Yeah, but Kurt, you can go through the journal and see the many variations. There was Pencap Chew. There was, believe it or not, before Skid Row, and that 80s band Skid Row?
Yeah.
Kurt Cobain wanted his band to be called Skid Row before Skid Row came out.
Oh, really?
And then Skid Row came out. He's like, crap, I can't use that name anymore. Right. I'm glad he didn't, because that's a horrible name compared to Nirvana. Nirvana is way better than Skid Row. Way better.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Hey, so questions that I just was thinking of before. Are you going to go back to the old grist mill?
I definitely will go back, but I'm a little bit hesitant because the spirit is a little bit too willing to communicate every time.
Yeah.
And if something's too willing to communicate every time, it could be good luck, but it could also be a trap. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about? Yep. It's just, I want to go back with another human being so they can witness it. I can film them witness it. They can film me witness it, just like on Ghost Adventures or any ghost show. If it's two guys holding a camera, it's a lot more credible than one guy holding a camera.
Yeah, true.
Because you don't know if he didn't edit for 1,000 years, some CGI effects. I don't know anything about CGI effects. If you've ever seen my intros the past 10 years, I throw on some text and I try to do some video effects, but I really don't know anything about CGI. And if I do add CGI, I literally grab it from a CGI stock video that's free. And then I grab it and I green screen it. So any CGI in any videos you've ever seen, like David Bowie Saw the Devil, that smoke monster?
Yeah.
It was CGI smoke on stock art that's free that you could download for free.
Oh, cool.
Royalty free, 100% free. I made sure it was on YouTubers' channels that said you can take this, you can use this, you can do whatever you want with it. Yeah. I didn't get it on any of those actual royalty free, because those royalty free websites
could become
actually have royalty free doesn't mean free. There's a little stipulation that if it becomes popular, they can steal all the money from it, stuff like that.
Yep.
But that video, actually, believe it or not, David Bowie Saw the Devil, was a girl. I grabbed this girl who's used like a Snapchat type filter It might have been a Vine filter or some type of weird filter where her face looked like a monster.
Whoa.
And then I filtered it out until you couldn't see the girl. You could only see the filter. And then I put it on top of a devil outline that I did draw.
Wow.
And, I thought it was, decent.
That's one of your best videos, I think, is that video. That was a land. I remember when that came out. David Bowie saw the devil, and it was like, oh, what am I gonna expect? And it was just so good. It was just so good, and I'm glad that it got pretty popular. Right, one of your most popular videos.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking it's like 90,000 views or something like that. Yeah,
really.
Maybe 85,000. I lost track, but. No, I saw a couple people repeat the information verbatim, and I got it from an actual biography interview verbatim. So, they could have gotten it from that as well. But, I had to research and re-research. The original version talks about some guy David Bowie invited over. And then after rereading all of the biographies, there's 2 biographies. They never mentioned the guy. So only one website mentioned the guy, and I don't think any guy was ever there because the other 2 never mentioned him. So I had to cut that guy out at the last second, which was just the man who fell to earth.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to splice and filter, and it's legal because I legally changed it into something different,
Right.
But it took a while to make that legally viewable. That's why I had to do it as I did it. As long as you metamorphosize something into something totally different that doesn't take away from the original thing. Exactly. Like my video doesn't tell people, oh, I don't need to watch the Man Who Fell to Earth anymore because I saw this.
No, you want to
see it now that you've seen it. But the reason I used the footage, other than it was nice and convenient, is he was about that exact same age during the event in 1976. Yeah. He went between LA and I think New Mexico to shoot that, somewhere around there, somewhere around the desert area. And, people say he was drinking milk and cayenne peppers.
Really?
And he probably was. That's definitely one way to get skinny, is just eat cayenne peppers all day. Yeah. Peppers increase the metabolism to an extreme degree. Mm-hmm. And I guess the milk was just to stay alive. I don't know. That's
probably heartburn. Yeah.
It's a pretty freaky. The heartburn because it's so hot. You need to take milk.
Yeah. I've done it.
Yeah.
I've had some of those.
So that's the David Bowie 1976 diet: cayenne peppers and
it's
milk.
Still in Hollywood today. I saw an article of like Beyonce, what she does to fast, and what Jared Leto did to fast.
The Master Cleanse diet.
It was like a cayenne pepper and lemon juice.
Mm-hmm.
Then that's all it's like a fast on that.
Yeah, the Jared Leto or Leto, however you pronounce his name. I did try the Master Cleanse diet. I tried it.
Really?
Jared Leto said he did it for 30 days, I think.
Yeah.
I couldn't get past 9 days.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because at day 9, my brain told me, where's the food? I'm going to die. And so I had to eat eggs. I started eating eggs. I slowly moved back into food, obviously too much, but it's super unhealthy. It's lemon, it's cayenne peppers, and it's like molasses.
Oh, yes.
And it's the most disgusting concoction. To this day, I can't even smell molasses without feeling sick because drinking molasses every day with lemon and cayenne pepper, disgusting. Really gross, really gross.
You tried
that. Yeah. Jared Leto, he microwaved Haagen-Dazs and drank it to become obese for that role in the movie where he played the killer of John Lennon. Horrible, real story, obviously, but that movie, it's all right. It's pretty freaky. It's a freaky story. But I personally, if I were to write a story on that guy, which I really wouldn't want to, I kind of take Yoko Ono's perspective. Don't even say his name. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Kind of like the New Zealand Prime Minister talking about that guy.
Yep.
Let's not even mention his name.
No.
That's what he wants. He wants publicity. He wants fame. Don't even say his name. But the guy and the director who directed that Jared Leto movie, the character who plays John Lennon in that movie has the same name as the guy that killed John Lennon.
No way.
The actor that played John Lennon. So the director went out of his way to scour the earth for someone that not only looked like John Lennon, but had the name of the killer. And I consider that very disrespectful.
You too, yeah.
That's really stupid. But if I were to make a movie on that story, which I wouldn't want to because I wouldn't want to glorify the guy, but I would go back to Hawaii. He was living in Hawaii with his wife, and he went crazy. How did he go crazy? What happened? I would want to have the backstory on that, and it gives you a little more perspective. As far as how he went crazy, it's up to interpretation, but I've read enough articles where he was naked in a room by himself, listening to the Wizard of Oz soundtrack over and over and over for hours upon end. And his wife found him like that.
Oh my God.
And he was full-blown bat S-word crazy.
Yeah.
And he was telling his wife how he can hear people in the walls, creatures in the walls. And that's pretty freaky because occasionally I'll hear a knock coming from the wall, but it's not in my head. I can film it. I've actually filmed the knocks here and there. But people are just going to say it's foundation settling of the house, you know. Yeah. But I've heard some pretty loud knocks. The first time, I've mentioned many times, I heard in a closet of an empty house up for sale, I heard a good 30 human knocks in a closet. And that's the first time I've ever heard anything ghost-wise, to be honest. I was about 15 years old in a house that was up for sale. And but the creepy thing about that guy, I'm not going to say his name, the killer of John Lennon, rest in peace. John Lennon, I'm a huge fan.
Me too.
Imagine Strawberry Fields, watching the wheels.
I got the box set right over there.
Obviously, all the Beatles songs. I guess Strawberry Fields is a Beatles song.
Yeah, it is.
The White Album is awesome. It's cool to get into a Beatles album, you know. But that guy that killed him, unfortunately, I read an article where he had something to do with being in the vicinity of like the Amityville horror house or some type of super famous haunted house. I can't remember which one.
In Hawaii?
No. He was in wherever the Amityville horror house is. It's not in Hawaii. You know where it is. It's in, Connecticut. And he was around the vicinity. And he was talking to his friends, and he was actually part of a Christian group of kids, and he was the oddball. And it was close to that house. I don't even know if that's the name of the house, but he was close to a very famous haunted house. And very few people. One article I read speculated he might have gotten the spirit from that house, took it to Hawaii, went crazy. Then he went back, and he happened to have a sheriff friend that gave him some hollow point bullets. I mean, what sheriff is going to say, "Oh, sure, here's some hollow points"?
I know,
but
it makes no sense.
Yeah, he was convinced. He convinced him that he needs it for personal protection. Nobody needs hollow points for personal protection. That's horrendous. And I would say after reading all the articles about this guy, who shall remain nameless, the freakiest thing I ever read about him, besides the Wizard of Oz thing, was he said a few years ago. No, it wasn't a few years ago. It was after he was incarcerated. That's right. Yep. I read these things once, then I never read them again. Yeah. Because it's too freaky of a subject. I didn't even want to make a video about it.
Nope.
But he said shortly after being incarcerated, getting his life sentence, he said multiple demons exited his mouth.
Whoa!
And
Really?
he said he could hear the sound. He said it sounded. I mean, the article doesn't give you the sound, but it gives you the gist. It was like, "Blah," and they exited his body.
That's
Now, I don't know
crazy.
if this is true. I don't know if this is fake, but
Right.
he has nothing to gain for telling that story because he's still in life in prison.
Did
So
you
he's not going to.
know
Have you ever heard that? That's freaky.
in New York, there's if you go to the YMCA in New York City,
Mhm.
his name is on there as like the number one racquetball handball player because he was like really good at handball.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's weird, man. It's freaky. And also the other freaky thing, remember George Harrison called him the devil's best friend in that song. And if you ever hear that song, all those years ago, which is about the Beatles and John Lennon, you know,
Mhm.
and he says, you know, if something, the devil's best friend, and that's talking about that guy. But yeah, I'm a
Wow.
big fan. I got
That's cool.
this box set here. This is the Lennon box set. I almost got an original print of John Lennon's in an art house, but it was about $300,000, so I didn't get it.
Wow. Yeah.
But this is a
It's
cool
pretty
box
cool.
set. If you don't have this, this is the Lennon anthology,
Wow.
and it has earliest like Plastic Ono days to Imagine to New York City, and then there's a hiatus point, and then of course the demos for Double Fantasy, and then there's a book to go with it, and
Mhm.
it's a really cool set. Really highly.
Yeah, his artwork is definitely unique. I like it. You know, it's pretty cool.
Oh, it's very cool, man.
It's like minimalism, but still
really
really
fun.
awesome. Yeah.
Yep. And there's like it's a whole insert. You know, it's a really cool set. Yeah. But I even have see these glasses he has on here. Hold on, the very typical Lennon.
It's not the sunglasses that Yoko used on the cover of something, is it?
Oh, I don't think so. Oh no, not those. No, that's
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, I thought that was disrespectful when Yoko used a picture
Yeah,
of.
read Frederick Siemens.
I guess she was mourning, but that's a weird thing. She used a picture of the glasses he wore when he was killed, and there's still blood on them, and they're broken. And she put them in the windowsill with New York behind it, and she took it for some promo for something.
For her album cover, that was
her album cover. Yeah, that's morbid. You know, that kind of reminds me of the movie Lords of Chaos, where the Euronymous character, who's one of the founding inventors of black metal in the Norwegian area of the world, you know. Yeah. And have you seen that movie, the Lords of Chaos?
No.
Lords of Chaos. Yeah.
Sounds cool.
It's Macaulay Culkin's brother.
Oh, really?
I can't remember his name. Something Culkin, you know.
Aaron.
I can't. What's his name?
Aaron Culkin.
Aaron Culkin. No, I don't think it's Aaron. It doesn't matter.
Oh, Aaron. Okay.
Kieran Culkin. Yeah, that's it. That's his name. Yeah. No, he does a good job. He does a really good job. He's a good actor. He's possibly better than his brother. You know.
I agree.
But the inaccuracies of the movie, and nobody attempted to try a Norwegian accent the whole movie, except for like two guys. And it's like, what? You know, I don't know. It doesn't matter that it's a full-blown American accent, but yeah, the Varg character, he has a YouTube channel. You can check it out. He's scared that they might take his channel down. I definitely do not recommend or endorse his channel because he definitely has some bizarre beliefs, but at least he was there. And concerning the movie, he says this was wrong, this was wrong. At least he points out the inaccuracies. So his channel does have some true information if you want to know the details. Like, for example, in the movie, Euronymous, he has a girlfriend who cuts his hair randomly for no reason. And then Varg shows up and they get in a fight and someone ends up, you know, I don't want to spoil the movie, but Varg said Euronymous didn't have a girlfriend, and she didn't cut his hair. The person that cut his hair was the autopsy people when they were checking for wounds on his head. They shaved his head bald, and he had long hair when he died. So that's kind of a huge inaccuracy, I would have to admit.
Wow.
You know? No girlfriend, and the autopsy people cut his hair, not her, who didn't exist. So, you know, that's it's interesting to look at the backstory behind death metal. Varg says everyone during the scene, which would have been the 80s and 90s when it sprouted, they all pretended to be Satanists, but they were all atheists. And they weren't LaVeyan Satanists. Varg specifically says they hated LaVey. There are some black metal albums with LaVey's face crossed out. So Varg says they're all posers. It was just a front. No one believed in anything. They just had this stuff. At least he was in it, so he would know. You know, he was the bass player for a very short period of time for the band Mayhem. And you know, Mayhem, you can listen to that album. It's interesting. It's definitely interesting. They're
really got
they have multiple albums, but their biggest hit was like it kind of sounds like Mysterialis. It has mysterious something in there, and you can find it. Okay. And the death metal singers, they all sound like, you know, they're not necessarily talented in singing. They're just, how long can they do, you know, how long can they do that? Yeah. So I don't know. It's kind of comedic from a non-death metal perspective, you know. Mm-hmm. But back to that guy that very sadly, tragically took John Lennon's life way too early. He said shortly after being incarcerated, something exited his mouth. I mean, exited a spirit, one or two or more, and he said he could audibly hear something. And let's take that as just anecdotal. Sure, he said that, whatever. But when you think about it, it's not the first time I've heard that. Scouring stories about criminals going to jail, I've heard something vaguely, remotely similar. I can't remember. At this point, I can't remember. Sometimes I bookmark it, sometimes I don't, you know. Right. But I've heard something similar of some criminal went to prison, and it was easy for them to be saved or something because they were no longer oppressed by forces, because those forces didn't want to hang out in prison. Right. If an entity does exist and it does possess someone and makes them go crazy, it's not going to hang out in prison for life sentence. Although I guess you could argue again. Yeah. You could argue the other way when it comes to Manson, Charles Manson. He definitely seemed possessed to the last day, you know, I mean, but maybe it was a mental illness. It's really hard to say, man.
Did Zak Bagans get in on a Charles Manson thing called Bloodline or something like that? What's the name of that thing?
Well, I know Zak Bagans is a huge Charles Manson memorabilia collector. He owns the biggest collection of Charles Manson memorabilia on planet Earth, which is a little freaky. It's kind of. But he
filmed the documentary about like his funeral and body and stuff.
No, I didn't see that. What's it called?
Oh, really? He has like ashes of Charles Manson in his museum or something like that.
Well, he has microscopic traces of the ashes. What happened was Charles Manson's ashes were spread. A psycho fan ran over and grabbed what they could find off the ground. And those ashes were either used by that psycho fan, or some even bigger psycho fan purchased it from that psycho fan, and they put it into a painting. And there's a painting of Charles Manson made out of his ashes, but there were he was such a small amount of ashes that only his eyes are made out of the actual ashes. The rest of the painting is made out of the artist's blood, which is super sick, super disgusting. I would never recommend owning something like that. That's just asking for a place to be haunted. But Zak Bagans has it in his haunted museum, so that's what he's hoping for. You know, I mean, for entertainment purposes
Doing
or
a
whatever.
documentary about it, I guess.
What?
I guess he's doing a documentary about it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Called Bloodline or something.
I'll check that out. I mean, yeah. Zak Bagans says that he collects all this hideous stuff to kind of force a spiritual experience from disbelievers who enter his haunted museum.
Yeah.
And, that's definitely a perspective. Yeah. It's kind of hard to force a spirit experience, but if you go there enough times, I'm sure you would have some type of experience.
Or you could do, blood and ashes, I guess. Jeez.
Yeah, man, that Charles Manson shrine. He has his TV from the prison that he bought.
Oh, really?
He has letters. He has that painting with his ashes.
Manson head, yeah.
He has all kinds of stuff that he's acquired over the years, and it's like on some huge shrine wall in one room or one section of one room in the mansion. I'm sure you'd get some freaky vibes just looking at that, But that's what Zak's going for. So it could be for good reasons. I can't, you can look at it negatively, but there's definitely some positives to testing out chaos theory, a spiritual chaos theory, try to jam pack a place, which he already knows when he bought it at auction, had a pentagram in the basement that witches supposedly summoned entities back in the, I don't know what it was, 60s or 70s or something.
Yeah.
Eight people watching. I mean, no big deal. So it's a Friday night. It's a very busy night. I just thought I would give it a shot and play some guitar. I am making new videos. Okay, David Blaine asks me, have demons talked to me? I have a question, David Blaine. Do you have an alias? What's your alias? Because it seems like it's pretty anonymous. It's just...
I have met the real David Blaine, by the way. He was out performing. I went to New York City with my friend Nick years ago. And we were out in Times Square just hanging around. It was like midnight, And people were all over the city. And they just installed that like stadium seating there. It was around Christmas time. And I have a photo of him. David Blaine was doing card tricks on the street to people, and he said he was raising funds for Hurricane Katrina. That's what it was, victims.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if he was or wasn't, but I did look and I kind of was glancing over, and then there were people around saying, "Hey, come to this comedy show, come to this, come to that." But yeah, I did meet. I saw him, and I didn't say like shake his hand or anything like that, but I saw the real David Blaine. Mm-hmm. And if this is the real David Blaine in the chat, he would remember.
It's not the real David Blaine. But he asks, have demons talked to me? And, I just tweeted some guy about some crazy guy who went on a rampage and claims that happened to him. And his lawyers might try to cause him to plead insanity, because that's definitely something in the worldly perspective of things around us. The rational psychologists and psychiatrists, some do a great job and help people out, but some are stuck in the disbelief that spirits exist because they've never had a firsthand encounter with them. So I understand their perspective, but they categorically say anyone who's ever had any interaction with a spirit or a demon is insane. Yeah. And I have a couple hundred books saying otherwise. There are thousands of books written in the past many thousands of years with spirit interactions. Sure, some of them are fairy tales. Some of them are exaggerations. But after reading some of these, and wow, I had that exact same experience. Some of them are bluntly speaking of a matter of fact, this wasn't of my mind. And the fact that they experience it and I experience it externally, what you have to do is you got to record it. You got to get some equipment and prove it. And then there's the deniability factor. How many thousands of people have to be holding thousands of cameras to prove to millions of people?
Yeah.
The number is infinitely high. Well, you would have to have 1 billion people holding 1 billion cameras at the same time. And even then, 100 years later, no one's going to believe the evidence, if not one day later. So I understand the almost impossible to prove factor concerning spirits. I consider it a challenge, but it's a challenge that occultists, mystics, psychics, mediums for thousands of years have not been able to successfully prove and convince the masses. So I don't think I ever would have a chance of convincing any type of masses, maybe 10 people, maybe a dozen, maybe 100 people. But then a week later, they'll be like, I'm not into that anymore. And it's almost just like an entertainment aspect. I understand. But I'm still motivated by exposing the truth, seeking the truth, finding it. And I have filmed actual spirits talk into my microphones, and I play it back 10 hours later, and I listen to it, and I hear voices. And they're recorded on a recording device, but unless you were there and you saw it A to Z, you couldn't scientifically say that that's what happened. You know, it's a really hard to prove scenario, but I know for a fact that some of the evidence you can gather is of a supernatural, paranormal nature. Spirits exist. Spirits are real. And I think it's okay to talk about internal psychological skeletons and demons, because that exists as well.
Yeah.
But actual higher dimensional entities, they exist as well. Take it or leave it. But if CERN found out that, oh, wow, that particle went into the fifth dimension. The fifth dimension exists. We can prove it. I doubt the next day they would say, maybe there's people in that fifth dimension, because science is very inclined to not talk about spirits and ghosts because it gets too far to the realm of religion. And there's some type of false divide between religion and science.
Absolutely.
They don't need to be against each other. They don't need to be pitted against each other. There are many Buddhist books which talk about how they're one and the same.
Isaac Newton said the same thing.
So what did he say?
Oh, Isaac Newton was, like, for example, he invented modern physics as far as we know it. And he was devout Christian and also looked into alchemy and stuff like that. But so much so that he castrated himself, you know. But he said, you know, that like he wasn't even known as a scientist. He was known as a natural philosopher, you know. So there was the demarcation line between science and religion didn't occur until, I would say, Enlightenment times of like post Immanuel Kant or something like that, where finally you had the separation between science, you know, metaphysics and philosophy and that sort of thing. But so, and many people before that, look at John Dee. John Dee was a brilliant mathematician, brilliant scientist, as well as a philosopher, and agreed and believed in talking to spirits, you know, an objective, repeatable in a scientific way. Even the early Greeks and the Greek papyri they were interested in reproducing. They were very practical people, and they wanted to, you know, see what worked and what brought down what spirits and whatever. And so they said you have to do it at this time with these materials on this day at this time of the day, and it was very precise. And so it used the scientific method, direct experience, injunction, meaning, you know, going through the step. You know, looking through the microscope to see the cells. You can't see cells without looking through a microscope. Looking through that microscope, having a direct experience of what you see, and then confirming it or falsifying it. And that's exactly what spiritualism. I mean, Buddhism has been doing that for thousands of years with dialectic, and I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, that's a good point. I have a couple questions. Did you have the experiences without knowing about them in books? Asks Vic Limited. And he also asks, no subconscious interference. And I get that question constantly. I've had that question at least 100 times. It's an implied, from an atheistic perspective, that if you're brought up Christian, you're going to believe in God and the devil. And it's going to be subconsciously that you have an angel on one shoulder and a devil on the other shoulder. But you got to understand, I never had any belief
Me either.
that a demon could pop into my room and walk through me. And then I had no opinion of poltergeists, what they were, poltergeist activity. I had no opinion. I'd never read about them. I only vaguely heard about them maybe on Unsolved Mysteries, maybe on some show like Sightings.
Yeah.
Vaguely for entertainment value. As a kid, I was like, that's interesting. That's kind of cool. Whatever. And I didn't think much of it because it was a very two-dimensional subject which didn't have much context. I didn't read a single book on poltergeist activity. I had never read a single book on focusing on demons or the devil or anything. When in 2010, I had a demonic encounter of an invisible being, 100% invisible. But I could hear it sit on a box twice. And then it did something which I'm going to write about. And when it's written in a document, I like to protect myself with these stories, especially after watching something called Demon House with Zak Bagans. That documentary, or Wikipedia says it's a mockumentary, and then they changed it to documentary, and then they changed it to pseudo documentary.
Really?
It's because the people who run Wikipedia, which
stupid.
is actually regular people, you can become an admin.
Normal.
You can become an admin for Wikipedia. It's not some high status. I could, if I really wanted to, become an admin. Yep. I was an admin for Urban Dictionary. And what you do on Urban Dictionary is you say, nope, that's not approved. Yes, that is approved. Okay. No, yes, no, yes. That's all you do all day long.
That's pretty cool.
And I was able to approve my own and downgrade other people's, which is why to this day I have the top definition for Dr. Pepper.
No way.
On Urban Dictionary, because I upvoted it and I approved it. And what you had to do is you had to submit it multiple times until you get to approve it, because it randomly goes to a random admin's screen. So you had to do it like 10 times until you got it, because everyone else rejected it.
Oh, wow.
But Wikipedia is similar. Their admins lean atheist, at least the ones that looked at that particular Zak Bagans thing. And they're like, demons aren't real. This has to be a mockumentary. And then people are like, no, this is a documentary. And then they settled in between a pseudo documentary. Most definitely Zak had to fill in some blanks. And I would say the biggest blank was at the very end when he says, what's that? Oh, no. The end.
No.
Like, wait a second. Where's the evidence? Where's the video of the thing you're freaked out by? So either A, he didn't have proper film and audio of what he saw. It's possible he only saw it in his head. Or it was dramatized for a nice intense ending for a pseudo documentary. But I think I lean toward it being more of an actual documentary. Sure, he threw in some drama, but if you don't throw in some sound effects, some scary music, it's not going to be entertaining if it's just flat nothing. He did bring in the investigator from the Entity case, a highly professional, renowned paranormal investigator, brought in his trimeter and he did get legitimate spikes in the basement. And that's the evidence I focus on. I don't focus on the what's that? Oh no! At the end. So I think at the end, maybe he was too scared to sleep in the house, and he wanted to make it look dramatic and not like he was chickened out and left early. But I think he was too scared to stay in the house overnight. He drilled the door shut with plywood and drills.
Wow.
So he couldn't get out even if he wanted to. I think he had to knock his way out, and they had to unscrew it. And they didn't want to add that to the documentary, so they cut that out, I bet. But maybe it was this particularly haunted house. Maybe I couldn't sleep there as well, but I bet you I probably could, because in 2011 I went to bed in a room with 2 demon poltergeists that move stuff around. I'm not crazy. It's an actual event that happened. I've scoured the occult section looking for a similar story. I've yet to find one similar to that. I haven't read anything similar to that.
Yeah,
I've read a few stories. There's one in The Dark Arts by Cavendish where he says there's a maid hundreds of years ago who there was a poltergeist at a mansion, and the owner didn't know where this came from, and they brought in, I guess, probably a religious person that deduced that it was connected to the maid. So he had to fire the maid, and once she left the house, the poltergeist was gone. So that is definitely interesting, and I don't disagree with poltergeists being attached to people. But what psychologists do is they say it's psychokinesis, PK. And psychokinesis doesn't exist from what I've seen. I don't see any evidence. So just because I've seen supernatural and paranormal things, I don't accept every supernatural claim, every paranormal claim, moving objects with one's mind. I've never seen any evidence that exists outside of an illusion stage magician setting. Does it exist? Maybe it does. But when I saw objects move, my mind had nothing to do with it. I have scenarios where I went to work and the entities moved things when I was at work. My mind is not that powerful to do that. I think I would have to be some egomaniacal psychopath to say, yes, I can move objects with my mind. I'm the fire starter. I'll set you on fire if you defy me. Only some type of lunatic would say, yes, I have psychokinesis.
It is me, yeah.
And I think psychologists over the past hundreds of years that couldn't grasp with the subject, some of them must have seen the poltergeist activity firsthand, and so they couldn't deny it. So it's a legitimate subject. I've mentioned this thousands of times, but Sigmund Freud, one of the top founding fathers of psychology, saw poltergeist activity. He saw a book violently fly off the shelf while he was talking to Carl Jung about poltergeist activity. What a coincidence is that they saw poltergeist activity while talking about it. Very interesting.
Yeah.
And that particular poltergeist was attached to Carl Jung. He knew it. But what Carl Jung didn't know is that it wasn't part of his psychokinesis, overactive subconscious. It was an actual entity assigned to him. Who knows what Carl Jung did? If you look at his Red Book, he painted beautiful illustrations of supernatural entities. It looks like he went on some LSD trips. I don't know what type of drugs he would have had access to, but there are definitely ancient forms of DMT you can boil from these cactus type things in South America. They've been making shamanistic drugs for years. So it's possible Carl Jung, to experiment with the mind, did take some drugs. It's hard to say. But whatever he did in his life, he attracted a poltergeist, and I happen to disagree on his conclusions. He was a very intelligent man, obviously. He wrote many books on
UFOs,
mysteries of the mind, occult subjects. I don't know. He wrote about UFOs.
Oh, I have it. Yeah, it's I think it's called UFO and Modern Man or something like that. And he sees it as not military or anything like that, or not, but as a challenge, almost in a Terrence McKenna way, as a challenge to scientific materialism, and that man has to create the UFO because it defies natural law and all this stuff. It's interesting. It's an interesting book. But he was one of the pioneers of the UFO subject. It existed while he was still alive, So yeah, he did write a book on that. You can check that out.
Wow, it doesn't surprise me though that he says it's internal, because it's his job to say everything's internal.
Yep.
And that's what science has gone with. Science has ran with that. It's kind of
Carl
like
Jung. Yeah, he reduced everything to archetypes.
Mhm.
Like Freud reduced everything to sex, and then Jung, he reduced everything to these archetypes in your mind. And but what they don't realize is that, there are things that go on in your mind. That's fine. But then there are external, objective things too. You know what I mean? Like, and, but it's still brilliant, but it's not the whole story.
Yeah. I mean, definitely there are archetypes of this and that here and there.
Right.
There is in Kabbalah the belief that the 72 angels and 72 demons are kind of archetypes of the mind of man. There's definitely that perspective that you are God because you have God inside of you. And it's a very widely accepted, even in different belief systems, and even generically, New Age wise, it's definitely accepted. I think that's why Become a Living God is so accepted. Like 50 years ago, Become a Living God would be, even though 50 years ago it was let's just say the 60s. Let's say the 60s when things were kind of free. Even then, people would have said it's heresy and pretty psychotic.
Well, Maharishi was kind of speaking that,
Okay. Well, in the United States, generally speaking, when you say you can become a god,
I know what you're saying.
In India, that's a pretty open belief.
Right.
In India, they have human beings which are deemed as gods. They almost see their spiritual leaders as gods, as opposed to just some mystic. They'll see him as a god. So that's interesting. They build these temples, and every piece of food, these monks or whatever they are, the spiritual mystics, the yogis, some of them have temples dedicated to them, have 1,000 followers, and every meal is from a donation. And,
that's right.
That reminds me of the Buddha, or at least the story of Siddhartha, the Buddha.
Gautama.
I read that he ate cow meat.
Oh, really?
So a lot of people say, oh, the Buddha was vegan. Of course, he's an ascended master. And this is a very disliked piece of information, but the Buddha could only eat the meat of an animal, including a cow, if the cow was killed, not for the Buddha, but the Buddha was just passing by after the cow was killed for totally unrelated reasons. And the owner of the cow welcomed the Buddha into his home and said, here's some cow. We killed it before you got here. So the death isn't on him. So as long as the death wasn't specifically prepared for the Buddha, and it just happens to be laying around, and we have too much beef, we don't have a refrigerator, they don't exist yet, can you please eat this before it goes bad? The Buddha did eat cow meat. So I thought that was interesting. But the Buddha and his monks, they definitely generally ate vegetarian. But they would mix it in with frogs. They would mix it in with anything they could find for free. And if they were lucky, they would get a meal with rice and beef and whatever,
They were very protein if they could.
It was donated to them. But
so name of the book that Carl Jung wrote is Flying Saucers, a modern myth of things seen in the skies. And it's interesting. Yeah, he says, in considering the phenomena of flying saucers and UFO, Jung focuses on what he believes to be their psychic significance rather than on their reality or unreality. Jung argues that they are, quote unquote, visionary rumors, a myth in the making. It's interesting, you know. Yeah.
I mean, I personally don't believe my mind can create a light in the sky.
I know, yeah.
But that's just me, you know. I just think it's external, you know.
No, I do too. I think it's for some people it's both. For some, I mean, for sure, people see things with their mind or whatever, but that's internal. I've seen external, unidentified flying objects. I'm not saying they're aliens. I'm just saying that I've seen weird things in the sky that I cannot explain otherwise. That I've seen with other people, you know, that definitely happened. What was I going to say? I was going to say something. Oh,
well,
what was it?
I know somebody that saw a cigar-shaped UFO.
Oh, really?
And there were definitely lights, and it looked metallic, and it moved kind of like a blimp, but it wasn't a blimp. It was a metal cigar-shaped thing, either with lights or portholes. I mean, if they don't describe it to a perfect accuracy, I don't know if there were lights or portholes, but there were things along the side, and this was in, I believe, the 50s. They saw a cigar-shaped UFO. So it seems like different eras have different shapes that are more popular.
Interesting.
And just because the mind of man might influence them, it doesn't mean they are of the mind.
Right.
They could be spirit entities that can shapeshift. Very unpopular belief, but spirits, when someone's standing in a room, like the Ghost Adventures, there's 3 guys, 4 guys standing in a room, and only one guy sees the ghost. And everyone looks for it, and only one guy saw it because he had some type of psychic connection, and he could see it. I think perhaps UFOs might have something similar going on if they're of a supernatural reality. But what were you going to say?
I just it was a completely different topic, but I remember I saw a tweet that you wrote that was very interesting to me because I believe this is true. I've very rarely heard people talk about this. Okay. Let me just find it. Hold on. Got it. The devil has physical capitals on Earth. Naming them makes the cities look bad. His minions slipped up, left a traceable footprint behind. They're spread out across the globe, invisible, undetected. The devil is a fifth-dimensional spirit entity, yet preferences physical locations. Now, I've said straight up, like, the cities that I think have demonic strongmen or whatever on them, or spirits or influences. And I think that even countries can. I think that even... yes, mostly cities, especially the big ones, you know. I won't name them either, but I guess.
Well, I'm going to name one. I'll straight up
go ahead.
One. See, and this is nothing against the city of Chicago, but L.W. DeLawrence, he ran his headquarters. He ran the Order of the White Willow. He ran the Order of the Black Rose. We're talking the adepts, hierophants, this and that, here and there. He ran like two or four occult organizations, but he wasn't the only one. Going through occult books of the 1800s and early 1900s, I see a lot of them published in Chicago. And then I came across the Roger Morneau story.
Yep.
I happen to have the book right here. It's called Charmed by Darkness. Now, I don't know if it's 100% true or not, but some of his story is eerily mirrored in my story. And not too many people say they were harassed by poltergeists. but he did admit that. And so that's what caused me to be more interested in his story, because I genuinely experienced that. I consider myself a victim to an extent. I mean, sure, I've overcome it and I'm not like scared of it, but kind of like an abductee of an alien recovery group would say they're a victim of alien abduction. That's never happened to me. I've never been alien. I have had zero contact with physical aliens.
Yeah.
So I don't know that aliens are physical, other than I do believe externally, planet-wise, the math says there's probably billions of populated planets out there.
Drake equation, yeah.
But as far as me, I've never seen them land and get out and say, here's a cell phone from 1 million years in the future. Okay, cool, thanks for the proof. That's pretty much what we need. We need a physical object.
I agree.
Otherwise, they're spirits. All these aliens are talking to people in their head. They're either crazy or it's some type of spirit communication, because aliens are not going to be talking to people in their head and leaving zero traces behind, unless, you know, you could say there's some Star Trek directive going on, but I don't know. All I can say is this: Roger Morneau, he said that the high demon priest, I don't know what his title was, but he was a priest type bishop, or, you know, he was some type of devil's cardinal of a totally different from the Catholic group. But actually, I mean, you might say they're similar. I don't know. But I would say they're, I mean, according to Roger Morneau, they worship.
I've heard, I'll tell you, but go ahead. Yeah, finish. Yeah.
Roger Morneau, his name Morneau kind of reminds you of Son of the Morning. Yep. I don't know if the devil likes him because of that, but who knows? According to Roger Morneau, he lived in Montreal. Everyone spoke French. And this French-speaking organization, which had a front, the front was seances. You want to come to a seance? And people who could stand the spirits at the seances were further recruited into the spirit worshiping organization. So it's interesting that there was a front.
Yeah.
But Roger was recruited into it, and the bishop or priest or whatever you want to call it of this devil worshiping organization, he wore all black. His head was shaved. It's kind of like a monk of the devil. And this guy was like, you know what? Yeah, we like you. The spirits have told us you can join. So he got all of his instructions from spirits. And some of the other people were iffy on whether Roger should join or not. They're kind of like, should we trust this guy? And Roger was going to go to another meeting, and they weren't even sure they were going to let him in. Because it was a very exclusive club of millionaires, or at least at the time, 1940s, even someone with, you know, $500,000.
Oh, yeah.
If you count it in, they're millionaires for today. And they were bankers, lawyers, professionals who won at the stock market every time because they had spirits on their side. This is according to Roger's story. Seems too good to be true. That's the only thing. It seems too good to be true. If the organization was real and his story is real, they vanished without a trace. They no longer use that front. They probably don't use that city, Montreal. If they do, though, I would like to investigate Montreal. It would be interesting.
Oh, I've been there. Yeah.
It'd be interesting just walking down the street trying to feel some vibe.
Oh, there's vibes. You'll feel some vibes. It's an amazing city. It's an island, actually, and there's like a mountain on the island, Mount Royal. That's where you get Montreal from. And you know, I've been several times. But Montreal for sure has a spirit around it, and it's on a mountain. Chicago, I'll tell you a story about Chicago.
Well, okay, you could tell the Chicago story. Let me tell the Chicago connection with Roger Morneau's story. Roger has 2 interviews on YouTube. That's it, just 2. If you can find another one, let me know, because there's only 2 as far as I know. Yeah. He conducted them with his church, which is not my church. I'm not Seventh-day Adventist. They have their own philosophy and their own belief and their own system. So you could say I pick and choose. But I happened to be harassed by poltergeists in 2011. I first saw the YouTube video of his interviews in maybe 2012, maybe 2013. And I was like, whoa, this guy experienced something similar. Let's investigate. And so Roger is being rejected by a place that previously they're really trying to recruit him, but now they're kind of being slow on him. And like the assistant is there, and he gets a call from the head devil worshipping head guy, whatever his name is. He's a bald guy, wears all black. He gets a call. He gets a call at some totally off hour, and he's like, hey, I just got a message from an angel which said, let this Roger Morneau guy in. Let him in. I just got a very condemning, very like in your face message from an angel, not a regular angel, a freaking demon angel that appeared as an angel of light.
Right.
And the angel of light that appeared to this head guy, the head guy was on business in Chicago when that angel of light demon appeared to him.
Interesting. Okay.
And after coming across hundreds of books published in Chicago, Roger Morneau's story obviously vaguely skims over that. But L.W. DeLawrence, and there are many people. As a matter of fact, I got a book over here. I want to grab it. So you can tell your Chicago story. Let me grab this book real quick.
Okay. Yeah, I think I know what book you're going to get. So in Chicago, now I've heard this from I forget exactly where, but there's the Sears Tower, and people call it the Tower of Mordor or whatever, and it looks like it has devil horns on it. Well, turns out there was a Catholic bishop or something like that was living in like the penthouse top floor of that building, and he was like really, people thought that he was connected to a lot of corruption, and he lived in that building, and supposedly he was a devil worshiper. But all right, that's
so that was in Chicago. What's the guy's name?
Yeah, I forget. He's a bishop though in the Catholic Church.
Okay.
Or was. He was. Yeah. I'll have to look. Let me look it up. Did you get the book?
Well, L.W. DeLawrence famously published all of his occult books out of Chicago, and I thought this was one of them, but it's not. But here's a ripoff. L.W. DeLawrence, he became pretty prominent during his time. Here's a random magic book that a little kid could pick up during the time. This was published in, let's see. It was clearly the early 1900s, 1936, by the Oracle Publishing Company. This one I thought said Chicago, but it doesn't. It says New York City. But, this is just totally innocent. The Ancients Book of Magic. Some kid might pick this up thinking it's like Houdini tricks. You know?
But I thought that book that you had that you posted about Dumbledore and whatever, it was I'm not going to say the word, but you know what I'm talking about. And I think that was published in Chicago.
I've seen many copycats of L.W. DeLawrence and vice versa. He copied other people, obviously, out of Chicago as well.
Mm-hmm.
But the cover of this book looks very innocent. It looks like it's just maybe tricks. And when you open it up, it full-blown has the Goetia stuff in here.
Oh, wow.
And how to actually summon different demons.
Wow.
And it's very freaky. And it repeats, here's some pictures of the demons. And most definitely, some of these demons appear as Bigfoot.
Oh, you've shown
like
those.
A Bigfoot look character. Bigfoot like hairy. Dollins called it Wolfman.
That's right.
So a lot of these lot of these encounters, it looks like Bigfoot, looks like a wolf man, a werewolf, and it's just one of the shapes that these entities in the past have chosen to appear as. No offense against Chicago. There are a lot of amazing, beautiful Chicagoans that are trying to live their best life. I happen to live in Santa Maria, California. A lot of amazing, good people live there too. But I think it's a tiny headquarter. Even searching the local ads, because I was looking for a place to live when I was trying to get out of the poltergeist haunted room. I scoured Craigslist to try to find another house, a room I could rent. And I came across a thread which said, hey, this city is pretty good. And this one's pretty bad, but Santa Maria is horrible. And what's the difference? San Luis Obispo is not very far.
That's
and
a cool
San Luis
town.
Obispo was ranked, when I lived in Santa Maria, San Luis Obispo was ranked by USA Today as one of the happiest places
Oh,
in the
really?
United States to live, or at least the people, the residents, are the happiest in the United States.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And not too far is Santa Maria, where a guy got his head chopped off with an axe. And that's what happened when I first moved there. I just got there, and my nephew said, hey, guess what? That's where some guy's head just got chopped off with an axe 6 months ago. I was like, what? That's freaky. And then he's like, oh, don't worry. His head wasn't fully chopped off. The guy just tried, and he failed. I was like, okay, but he died, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That sounds even worse. Man, that's freaky. So I think, well, I know for a fact there is at least a number of demons that jump out from the dimension into ours in Santa Maria. At least they did it for me. I don't know exactly where they're located. I did take some stock footage for my part 2 of the Demon Poltergeist Haunting. I'm going to make a documentary part 2. I took some stock footage. I happened to be able to take the elevator up in a hospital. I was able to get a nice shot of the field, the strawberry field. And I have no idea where the demons hang out. But they could hang out in buildings of corruption. They could hang out in the serene, beautiful mountains. No humans hang out there.
That's a good point.
I can see demons hang out at the top of the mountains.
Neverland. I'm just kidding.
Neverland is in a valley. It's not the tops of the mountains, but definitely, most definitely, who knows? There might have been demons at Neverland. I could tell you.
They're on the carousel.
Neverland has been abandoned for so long that demons probably live there now, if they didn't before. Abandoned buildings are magnets for spirits that they like physical structures and almost like to create a make-believe. I'm a human. This is my house.
Yeah, like a dollhouse.
I don't know why. Maybe that's totally wrong. Maybe they do it for other reasons. I can only guess, you know?
I don't know, yeah, but I've heard from several different people that they like dollhouses or physical spaces where I guess they can, feel like they're human. By the way, did you see the new, the guy that made Hereditary is coming out with a new movie, Midsommar?
What's it called?
Midsommar. It's like Midsummer, but with an O. It looks good. It looks freaky. You got to watch the trailer if you haven't seen it. Midsommar. Whoa, it's coming out soon.
Check it out.
Oh my god, you haven't seen it yet? Oh my god. No. It's like they're like, yeah, this is like a festival they have every 90 years. And like it's like these like college kids that like go into this festival, and the creepy thing about it is it's a horror movie, but it's all like flowers and filmed in daylight. You know what I mean? It's freaky, man. And there's like you just gotta watch the trailer. You'd like it. In a way.
I'm not into horror movies. Like people might think I'm inspired by scary movies to invent stuff. I'm not. My sister, Kate, I'll say her name. My sister Kate. She loves horror movies, or at least when she was younger, she did. And there is this 80s movie, this corny 80s movie. And there's monsters fighting these people, whatever. I'm watching it like the Shining kid. I'm watching it like this. I left the room. I couldn't watch more than 5 minutes of it.
Yeah.
As a kid, I hated horror movies.
Yeah.
Because I was exposed to them only few and far between because my sister was such a big fan. But this guy, he's hiding from killers in a stall of a bathroom. Some people might know the name of this movie. I've only seen 5 minutes. And obviously they switch his arm and his hand with a fake dummy arm and a fake dummy hand. But it looks, from a kid's perspective anyway, and they did pretty good special effects in some movies, you know, it looked exactly like his real hand.
Oh,
and
wow.
the killer chops his hand off. And he's like, oh my gosh. And he has to get toilet paper so his hand, so he doesn't bleed to death. Man, even a 5-second scene of a movie like that, I couldn't stand it. So I stayed away from it. I didn't like it. I've never seen any of the Saw movies.
No, I saw the first one. That's it.
I've never seen any of those
Jigsaw.
Jigsaw. I don't want to talk about the genre, you know. If it's occult related, and it might be Hollywood trying to slip in some occult symbolism.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Sure, I'll watch it just to see what's going on.
Like Hereditary. You know, it's the same guy that did Hereditary.
I've watched Hereditary once. I might watch it a second time.
I saw it twice.
You know, I watched The Shining. The Shining is super mild.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, people were like, "Oh, The Shining's the scariest movie I've ever seen." So I'm scared of hands getting chopped off. You know,
right? Gore.
So I'm going in thinking it's going to be gory, and there was very little gore, and it didn't scare me.
No.
So I was like, "Oh, finally, a horror movie that doesn't scare me."
Right.
That's because Kubrick was a master of suspense. He didn't need a bunch of gory horror to make it a great movie.
Right.
And, it's kind of like shock value. It's kind of like a comedian throwing in a bunch of curse words. Kubrick didn't have to do that.
Exactly.
He wrote so well. He obviously directed so perfectly that, it's beautiful,
I do want to see the Jordan Peele movie, Us.
Yeah, definitely. Jordan Peele. Yeah, I mean,
Tim Heidegger's in it.
I hope he's not in it too much because
I know
he doesn't really strike me as a horror movie guy.
I know.
He's so known as a comedian that he could accidentally ruin a scene.
I know, that's the thing.
You know what I mean? Maybe he did a great job. I haven't seen it yet.
I heard he does a great
want
job.
to see that. I definitely want to see
Us.
It's people are calling it almost a sequel to Get Out.
Get Out was great.
And I didn't watch Get Out for a long time. I didn't watch it in the theaters. I watched it a few months ago. It was amazing. Yeah, I thought it was great. Good. Yeah. I thought there were tons of allusions to Being John Malkovich, though.
Oh, really?
So many. And then when I saw the actress from Being John Malkovich in the movie, I know for a fact.
Oh, wow.
Jordan Peele is a huge Being John Malkovich fan. He has to be. Because he added the actress. The scene where he goes into the sunken place?
Yep.
I feel that is inspired by the going into John Malkovich's head.
Oh.
I feel there is some inspiration. Now, I did mention that it's very unpopular. People are like, oh, don't take away from his genius.
No,
he's definitely a talented guy, maybe a genius. He might be the next Alfred Hitchcock. I'm a fan of his work.
He's hosting the Twilight Zone, the new Twilight Zone.
Oh, yeah. I'm a huge fan of Rod Serling, the Twilight Zone. I have the box set somewhere.
Oh, really? Wow.
Twilight Zone box set.
That's great. Those used to freak me out when I was a kid, man.
Here's the first album I ever bought ever. It's Faith No More.
Oh, wow.
The Real Thing. Yeah. This is the actual tape cassette.
Still have it.
Yeah. Faith No More, The Real Thing. This is the first album I ever bought. The reason I don't have the second, Nirvana Nevermind, is because my friend begged me for it to borrow it. He begged me to borrow it so many times that he stole it from me.
Oh no!
And that's why I don't have Nirvana Nevermind anymore.
Yeah, I think I had Vanilla Ice and MC Hammer.
Oh my gosh, I would never buy Vanilla Ice, but I did memorize
To the extreme.
I did memorize the "Can't Touch This" lyrics when I was a kid.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember them anymore, but at the time it was popular, you know.
Hammer go hammer, your hammer, my hammer, and the rest can go and play.
Yeah, I memorized all that, even those stupid parts. Yeah. Yep. I'm really glad the Twilight Zone ride still exists in Disney World, but it sucks.
Tower of Terror?
Yeah, the Tower of Terror exists.
Oh, I love the Tower of Terror. Yeah.
Disney World, but what sucks is they turned it into Guardians of the Galaxy in Disney.
No.
At least it's actually California Adventure. So I went on the ride. I went on Tower of Terror. I went on it like 3 times. Yep. I liked it so much. It was my favorite California Adventure ride. I went on it 3 times. And then they changed it to Guardians of the Galaxy.
No.
And it's the collector, and it's its collection. It's clearly the same ride. How do you turn a freaking hotel into a spaceship? I don't know.
I don't know.
They managed to do it. And I've never been on it. But I assume you go up an elevator and see the different collections of the collector. It's stupid.
Oh, man.
The Twilight Zone is a way better theme for a ride. And
it was so cool.
It's still there. It's still there in Florida.
I went the first year it came out. And they hadn't, like, because they made it different every year. And, like, you would fall once and go back up, and that was it. But then they made it so you'd fall twice, 3 times. I got to see the behind the scenes. I have a photo of me going behind the scenes and like seeing like the prop area, and they would dress you up. Oh, hold on. They would dress you up in like they dressed me up as like they had like it was for school, so that we were on like a field trip. They had me and my girlfriend at the time. I was the groom and she was the bride. And like we had to play up these parts. It was really interesting. But I got to see all the back lot of Tower of Terror. It's pretty cool, man. And by the way, like I went 2 days after September 11th, so no one was in the park in Disney World. And I could get right off the Rock and Roller Coaster. I could get right off the Tower of Terror, and like there's no one in line, so you just like run right through like the house, the mansion, or whatever. But it was really cool. Like, you get in the elevator and the guy tells you this thing, and like then you get back up, and then you take the other elevator up there, and then it's like there's a hidden Mickey. There's a hidden Mickey in that ride. There's like 33 hidden Mickeys all over the place. And but it's just so cool, and then you get to the thing and it's just you see the outside. Oh man, that was a great ride. Yeah,
I like the waiting room. They use CGI to make Rod Serling introduce it, and it's perfect. It's so perfect. It looks real. It's very, very cool.
No, that's probably my favorite ride. Yeah, that's a good point. That's too bad. They made it to Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, they literally they painted it gold. They painted it gold and attached stupid futuristic junk to the outside. And it looks like a hotel with a bunch of weird stuff stuck to it. It makes no sense.
That's too bad.
It makes no sense. Yeah. But, man, if I'm ever in Chicago, I'll investigate Chicago as well. There are sites where L.W. DeLawrence ran his businesses and did his things. And a lot of countries were mad at him because sorcery was banned in Jamaica, parts of Africa. And so he would get government complaints. Hey, you can't sell these books to our countries.
Wow.
It's illegal to perform magic in certain countries. Obviously, the United States didn't care. The United States, that the voodoo queen, she went to Haiti and came back and sold voodoo dolls and turned it into a big business, United States is freedom of religion.
Exactly. Yeah.
People use it for anything, and I definitely can. It's freedom of religion. If you believe in some dark entity, you have the freedom to believe in that.
It's true. Well, the other city, I'll name the cities. I think L.A. definitely has a spirit over it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Another one would be New Orleans, Louisiana, just because of just the heavy magical Haitian voodoo.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of magic,
slavery, everything. It's just heavy there. And what else? Where else I felt?
David Bowie definitely said he couldn't stand L.A.
Yeah.
He was renting that house owned by Gypsy Rose Lee previously, where he saw an entity in a swimming pool. He said, "I can't stand this oppressive feeling in the whole city." We don't know what he was talking about because he was a super huge Ziggy Stardust superstar. Maybe he's talking about fans were harassing him everywhere. We don't know. But he definitely liked New York because people are more casual and laid back in New York. People wouldn't mob him.
He lived in the same apartment building Macaulay Culkin lived in, which is interesting. I guess that's what Macaulay Culkin said.
Okay.
But I don't know what that has to do with it. But New York would definitely, that's just, I don't know, you ever been to New York? It's like,
no.
It's an island again. It's a Manhattan Island, obviously, but there's other parts too. But it's just so huge. It's just like, it's like in 1,000 lifetimes, you would never be able to experience everything in New York. It's incredible how vast and it is. It's overwhelming. You want to talk about overwhelming, man? It's just like, wow. But like John Lennon loved it, and David Bowie loved it, and people do like it. Like Ricky Gervais lives over there too sometimes, I guess. And I can see that because you can kind of fade into the crowd. You know what I mean? And kind of be anonymous.
Like there's paparazzi photos of Bowie like 2 years before he passed away, rest in peace. And he's at a stoplight doing a crosswalk and no one cares. No one's bothering.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. Because they don't really care. Oh, hey, speaking of further videos, like what I remember when you were doing the was it Pyramidal, and you went to Hollywood and you filmed like this Johnny Depp impersonator guy.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to that footage? Like, what was the...
Well, I'm definitely making a video on Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
And I've been making it for the past, I don't know how many years. So many years ago that maybe 3 years? I can't remember. See, my channel's not about celebrities. Here's some celebrity gossip. So I had to make it occult related. What's the occult aspect to Johnny Depp? And I didn't want it to make it bad. I wanted to just show some interesting backstory on Johnny Depp. I mean, I know he has a room with a bunch of vampire stuff, but that just means he's a fan of vampire memorabilia. That doesn't mean he's an occultist. Although he definitely, he's a fan. He's a best friend with Marilyn Manson, and he goes into the vampire room to meditate. That's kind of creepy. You gotta admit, that's a little bit creepy. And but I mean, it's one of the few places he can get away. I mean, he likes to get away so much he bought an island in the Bahamas so he can get away from people, just for the sheer reason he can not be paparazzi harassed.
Yep.
But a lot of news came out about Johnny Depp, negative, and then and I didn't want my video associated with that news. So I've been holding on to this video for like 3 years. But I filmed 2 different Johnny Depp impersonators. And I wanted the one that looked a lot like him. For Pyramidal, I did film that guy that looked a lot like Johnny Depp.
Yeah, with the glasses and stuff.
And that guy is not American. He's from Europe.
Really?
He's from Europe. He has a very thick European accent, but he looks
He looks just like.
And when I said to him, I said, "Oh, will you do a video for me?" And I gave him a couple bucks because he's there for pictures, and you give a donation.
Give a few money, yeah.
I said, instead of a picture, can I get a video? And he's like, "Sure, yeah." And he has, heavy European accent. I don't know exactly where he's from, but
that's awesome.
I said, "Wow, you look." First of all, he was not dressed like a pirate. He was dressed like Johnny Depp's regular clothes.
Fedora and the glasses, yeah.
Which was so funny because he looks so much like him that he doesn't have to dress like one of his movie characters.
Right.
And you could see tourists saying, "Oh, Johnny Depp." And they know it's not him. They know it's not. But I was like, "Wow, you look exactly like Johnny Depp."
That's crazy.
He got insulted. He said, "No, I look like 10 years younger than Johnny Depp."
Oh, jeez. Oh, my God.
It's pretty funny. But he filmed a short thing, and then I wanted to film him again, but I caught a different Johnny Depp who's American in a Pirates of the Caribbean outfit, and he doesn't look even close. Like if he took that off and just put the fedora on, he would look nothing like Johnny Depp, other than his goatee. And but I filmed that guy to do the intro to my Johnny Depp video, which is actually an analysis of the movie Dead Man. And I was
just talking about that movie. Yeah.
I thought I want to do an analysis of Johnny Depp's entire career, not just Dead Man. So I wanted to add other things, and I'm like, this isn't a movie review channel. So I had to go from an occult perspective, and there's some interesting stuff. But it's not complete. It's just not, I can't upload a half-finished product. You know what I mean? I have to round it out with something. And now that he's playing a wizard in the new Harry Potter movies, maybe I can I mean, the Fantastic Beasts movies.
Grindelwald.
Grindelwald apparently had a secret affair with Dumbledore. I mean, who cares? Who cares? Who cares about? Everyone's mad at J.K. Rowling because she keeps mentioning these secret affairs between her fictional characters, but she's not written a single scrap on these affairs. They're exclusively in her head.
Exactly.
And it's, that's the funny thing, that she just makes it up. And, yeah. But no, I'm going to be making more. I have half-finished. I have a good 10 half-finished episodes. One on Kurt Cobain that I wanted to have a really controversial ending to. I tend to make a video, and it starts off pretty good, and it's going pretty good, and then I destroy it. I don't destroy it on purpose. It ends up destroyed. I know it's going to get 100 thumbs down.
That's okay.
But I have a theory about Kurt Cobain, perhaps occult related. I'm going to put at the end. But the intro is going to be just the footage of Joey Santiago playing the Where's My Mind. It's not copyrighted by anyone because I filmed it myself on my cell phone. And, it's him vaguely playing it. The do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. It's a cool riff, and he wrote it. And I don't think he plays that part on the song. The lead singer plays that part, I think, while he plays the more complex solo in the background.
Yeah, I think so.
He wrote both parts, though. Wow. And this book, the reason this reminds me of L.W. DeLawrence, I thought it had Chicago on it, but it doesn't. This guy's name is Louis de Clermont. L.W. DeLawrence, Louis de Clermont.
Yeah, what's up with that?
All these French names. And Roger Morneau, also a French name, in Montreal, Canada in the 40s, said he was recruited to a sinister organization of spirit worship. The most striking aspect of that story is these paintings of the manifested spirits. If his story is true, these paintings exist somewhere. He described them like masterpieces. He described them like a Leonardo da Vinci, a room full of them that no one's ever seen, that are full body-sized portraits if they exist, no one's going to destroy these paintings, right? They have to be somewhere.
You think?
I'm always trying to find proof of this organization, even down to the hymnals. They had hymnals with demonic lyrics. I can't find it.
I remember him saying, like, there was a professor of history that came over to one of the seances, and they were connected to McGill University, which is like the Harvard of Montreal. And they said something. He said something like the history guy was trying to get some information about Napoleon, and the guy turned into like one of Napoleon's colonels and like gave him the story or something. Like, do you remember this?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. That's some clue. That's a clue. Like maybe it's connected to McGill University. Find out who was doing Napoleon history, or I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, that's classic Demon 101, mimicking a famous dead person.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's what they do in England to this day. You saw that Arthur Conan Doyle impression done by supposedly a spirit through a medium, and it sounded like a male, and they claimed that it was a female medium. Interesting. But so I'm not sure if Montreal is a capital of these entities, but if you read enough books, you see Paris, France repeated over and over and over and over and over and over.
Yep.
And if the devil is a fan of any language, the Matrix Reloaded made fun of it with that French-speaking evil character, which
Merovingian.
He said he loved cursing in French. So I don't know if that character was just...
No, he's the Merovingian. That's a French thing, you know?
I don't know if it's a coincidence, but maybe the devil prefers cussing in French, and I don't know, but there are definitely black mass witch parties in mythology. You can't take them all literally, obviously, but in the medieval times and the Renaissance, supposedly witches got together with demons and had full-blown black mass / after parties with orgies with demons and humans. I don't know if that's even possible. It's pretty freaky. Some of them are fantastical and over the top. You might even say written as purposely trying to scare people, you know, the propaganda. Some of them might have been written as propaganda. But yeah, I was going to do a video on that. It's definitely interesting that witches might do it out of body. They might pass out. They might leave their body and go into an astral place and have these parties. That would make more sense because clearly, at least I don't think it's too possible to physically go into the forest and physically hang out with spirits. But maybe that's possible. You know, you see that in pop culture a little bit here and there. You know, that movie, The Witch?
Yeah, I was just thinking that, yeah.
Yeah, that's basically repeating some of those ancient myths. You know, they would go into the forests and even the movie Little Hours. Have you seen that one?
No.
Little Hours is a movie. It's a comedy on priests and nuns getting married secretly. And I guess one of the nuns wanted to become a witch, and they go into the forest. And you know that cliche of witches dancing naked in the forest?
Yep.
Well, the Paris, France mythologies go beyond that, and demons show up. And you've seen the woodcuts. They're dancing side by side with horned demons. Is it real? Is it just mythology? There's really no way for us to know in these modern times. But, you know, L.W. de Lawrence, having a French-sounding name, Louis de Clermont, Roger Morneau, and everyone being a French speaker, some of them had to be from Paris, France, right? I mean, that organization, if it happened, if it was real.
Yeah,
so
I think the historian was a professor in Paris and came over to Montreal and was a visiting professor at McGill. He says that in that long testimony video interview. I got to watch it again. I'll find it in timestamp.
I would say some pretty decent proof. And you could say it's circumstantial or hearsay, but there is a very interesting piece on the architecture of Paris, France. Paris, France has churches with they almost invented the gargoyle on the church in France. There's gargoyles everywhere.
Yeah.
Supposedly to protect the buildings. I don't know if they protect the buildings. They might freaking summon spirits that look like them. I don't know. But it's definitely pretty freaky. Yeah.
Well, and then the Champs-Élysées, which is like, if from above, it's a zodiac. It's like it's a circle, and then there's 12 different streets. So there's a lot of like, what do we call it? Like architecture to summon megalomancy or whatever it's called, megalosomancy, where architecture is supposed to draw down these spirits into these cities. And I would say Rome definitely has a definite spiritual thing about it. There is an old alchemical building there where Crowley would do, it's overrun by cats now, but he would do workings there. And then there's an alchemical door where like people for thousands of years have been coming. And it's a very not too many people know about it. It's called the alchemical door, but you can look it up on Google. And this is why the Vatican has its walls over the rest of the city, because it wants it considers Rome, that the other part of Rome, to be pagan and heathenistic and all that stuff, you know. So it wants to be separate from that. And to this day, if they have conclave or anything, they shut the doors because they want to keep the devil out, because the demons are definitely, you know, I don't know, I'm not pushing any religion, but I'm just saying, like, at least they think, I mean, these are people that do believe in the devil and do believe in a literal spirit walking the earth, and do exorcisms in the very rare circumstances, but they do, and they study this type of thing. And they know that, like, for priests, especially for popes, especially for any higher up, they're going to be targeted spiritually with demons, you know. So they have to protect themselves.
Yeah, I mean, the devil. You know, here's a book, Modern Spiritism by Ropart. I haven't fully read it, but I read a chapter. And late 1800s, he went to dozens of seances looking for a real one. He definitely went to some fake ones, but his conclusion scientifically was that some of them are real. And I've never been to hundreds of seances or dozens of them for any scientific reasons, but ghost investigations, some are freaky. Some are really casual and blasé, but I only do those investigations because I did have encounters with a negative entity, negative spirit. As far as the devil, I would never claim to have met the devil. I met a demon. As much as you can meet a demon. And when the thing walked through me in 2010, this is a year before my 2011 poltergeist incidents, and I saw someone leave a comment saying, "Oh, you mean 2011?" Well, I'm very specific on my dates. I met this guy once who said, some great event happened to me on August 5th, 1984. And ever since I met that guy, I was like, wow, you have a good memory of an exact date. That's really impressive. I couldn't do that. I don't do that. I don't remember dates well, you know?
Yeah.
But after some freaking horrific things happened to me, I started trying my best to write down the dates, memorize the dates. After the spirit walked through me on February 17th, 2010, a little past 11 p.m., I texted someone, and I think I even texted myself. Whatever I did something to keep a digital note. And then I never used that cell phone when I upgraded, and I think everything got deleted, and I assumed it would have been saved, but it wasn't. So it took me years to find the exact date again. But ever since then, I know certain specific dates because of that guy. You know, that guy's like, 1984, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So exact dates, I'm not some type of idiot savant that, oh, the exact dates. But I realize it helps tell the story a little more accurately.
It does, yeah.
So February 17th, I think it was about 11:04 p.m. A demon sat on a box in my closet. Yada, yada, yada. I've told the story multiple times. Check out my video if you want to see the full story. My video called, what's that called? High Ranking Demon, something or other.
Yep.
It has very low views. People ask me about it hundreds of times. So I finally made as best I could without telling the full story, but I told as much as I can. It's called Divine Intervention Laws and the High Ranking Demon, a true story. Check it out if you want to see that retelling to the most complete I've ever told it. But I do not think that was the devil. I've told the story to a few people, and one person said, "Whoa, I think you saw the devil. I think you met the devil. I think that was the devil." And I'm like, "No, I don't think so. I think he was a high-ranking demon. It definitely had what felt like many spirits following it, but I don't think it was the devil. I don't know where it came from. I don't know where it hangs out. These demons probably hang out on mountains. If I were to throw a theory out of thin air, I would say the devil probably hangs out at the tallest mountain. He probably has a heightened, one of those.
Like the most high, yeah.
He hangs out in his dimension. But if he ever did drop down, I could see him dropping down at the top of the highest mountains, Crowley said he was one of the first people to scale K2. And he said when he got there were winds blowing in his face that he interpreted as a spirit trying to kick him off. And it's not the first person that said that. And he definitely would have known if it was a spirit, you think, because he definitely researched that stuff. But I'd say spirits do historically hang out on the top of mountains.
Yeah.
They have some type of, first of all, if you can't die from lack of air or oxygen and you're invincible, you're going to be like Superman. You're going to hang out wherever you want,
Yeah.
I could see a spirit hanging out on the top of the mountain,
Right. Well, I mean, even if you look at the Bible, Moses goes to the top of the mountain to talk with God. He comes down, and his face is aglow, and he comes down with the commandments and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's spirit communication going on with mountains. There's definitely a.
Didn't Jesus tempt? All right, Jesus tempt. Didn't the devil tempt Jesus? And didn't the devil take Jesus to the top of a mountain for a few seconds?
Yeah, exactly.
Totally. Yeah. So teleportation, was that real? Was that in his mind? I don't know, but the devils did seem to hang out at the top of the mountain, at least during that. He might have taken him to where he hangs out to view mankind.
Oh, wow. That's a good point. Wow.
Who knows, And he tried to tempt him, saying, "You can have everything."
Yeah, that too, yeah.
And Jesus is like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he said, "Get behind me, Satan,"
Yeah. He said
and
that to Peter, too.
I'm not overly religious, People probably think I hold crosses and say, "Get behind me, Satan," but I've never held a cross and casted out a spirit. I've never said that phrase, "Get behind me, Satan." I've never said that. Banishing a spirit. I usually talk in regular language. I usually say, "Hey, get out of here," and I'm really stern. And they do leave. They do leave eventually. I talk to them like I talk to a human, but that's probably the wrong way to go about it. Maybe I should. I don't know. Maybe I should work on. I don't know anything about banishing rituals. I definitely have read a few. I've read a few, but they're a little bit too technical.
Far out, yeah. Maybe you should learn some Latin, and then write a song, and then banish it through rhyming. I don't know. I have no idea. I've never banished a spirit. I did have some kind of. When I was in 8th grade, I was really into meditation, and I left myself wide open to whatever was in my house, and I found out that I was meditating, and I was feeling this what they call chi energy ball, which I understand could be demonic now, and it feels like a bubble, feels like this magnetic force between your hands, and then it just got bigger and bigger, and it started like this, and then I could see this bright light in front of me. And as soon as that, I was like, wait a second, I got to stop this. And I couldn't. And like, it was like my voice was like a little piece of my head, tiny, tiny piece of my consciousness. And I was like, I can't move. I can't get out. And so I did stop. And the thing I did say was, get out. When I finally like broke through, I said, get out. And by the way, I had Indian music on. I had Within Without You, the Beatles' Within Without You. Instrumental, so there was no lyrics, and it was repeat over and over and over again. So it was a whole trance. It was a complete trance. That was scary. That was the scariest thing. I ran out of my house and didn't come in until someone else came home. But yeah, that's I don't know how to banish it other than coming to your senses and not being in a trance. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I banish them just by being stern. I stand up and I say, get out of my room.
Yeah. Get out.
As stern as I can.
Yeah, I was stern.
And they're not used to a human interacting with them on a person-to-person level. They're not used to that.
Right.
They're used to people going, what the F was that? Yeah. Perhaps. I don't know. I don't spy on other people's perspectives, but I can tell you this. I'll mention it. This happened to me, and I'll tell you this one thing. So you said get out. Is that what you said?
Yep.
You said get out, and it worked.
Yep.
And it helped you get out of it. Yeah.
Yep.
So you don't know what you're going to say when a demon enters your room invisibly, just like a negative force enters your room, an unseen force. Here's a book by Manly P. Hall called Unseen Forces. I pick up books like this because I've witnessed unseen forces many, 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 many times. So I look, what advice do you have about unseen forces? And unfortunately, Manly P. Hall is like 7 years ago. Our forefathers, in the mind's eye of the perception of the reality, the microcosm and macrocosm. I don't want to hear that flowery BS. I want to know what your perspective on unseen forces are.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he didn't mention his perspective on unseen forces in this entire thing. Not once.
I've heard that lecture, yeah.
So Manly B. Hall is such a smart guy, and he was definitely an initiated guy, and he had perspectives, but he almost put his secret info in parables that the unworthy couldn't understand. I just want the blunt information. You know what I mean?
Right.
I respect a blunt story without the flowery BS. Sometimes it's a lot nicer. But what happened? Okay, you can't plan when a demon spirit invisibly enters your room. You don't plan it.
No.
Unless you're summoning it. I guess. Sure. I guess I tried to prepare for it with my first corner of room experiment, which I'm never going to do one of those ever again. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't prepared. I wasn't ready for the consequences. 24 hours after that happened, a spirit walked through me while I was trying to go to sleep. And I just turned off the light. I started to go, I started to put my head on my pillow. Within 5 minutes, a pure evil spirit walked through me 24 hours after this experiment. So I know for a fact he was the same spirit. He was the spirit saying, hey, remember that trick over there? This is me. Ooh. And I was like, whoa, I don't want to deal with that. It felt like pure evil, but I rank them now because it happens so often. I ranked that one as a, number 6 on the scale of 10. 6 is pretty freaking strong. Yeah. It didn't have any following it, which is, I've only experienced that once. In 2010, February 17th, this is what happened. Sat on the box twice. My ears perked up. It did something. It walked through me right to left. and you don't plan on how you're going to react. You don't plan on what you're going to say, what you're going to do. I was so wide awake that when the entity walked through me, and this was on a scale of 1 to 10, this was a 10. The only time a 10 ever walked through me. It felt like I had 1,000 spirits behind it. The ones behind it were very weak, like 1, 2, and 3. But we had a 10 walk through me after it sat down on a box twice. And I'll reveal for the first time my first reaction of what I said when it walked through me. This is when it's like midway. It hasn't left my body yet. I am moving a little bit. I'm like, what the heck is this? It's not sleep paralysis. I don't think I was possessed, but it perhaps attempted to possess me, I think unsuccessfully. Yep. And maybe it didn't. Maybe it just wanted to freak me out before it left. All I can say is this. The first thing I said when it walked through me was this. I said, nice to meet you. I said, nice to meet you.
Oh, my God.
Is that not the worst possible thing you can say when a freaking 10 ranked whatever? I mean, just the highest ranking demon ever walked through my body in my life. It was clearly a general of something, whether you believe in the devil or not. It was a high ranking. Spirits were following this spirit. I said, nice to meet you.
Whoa.
That's because it was such an off-the-wall experience. I didn't know what was happening at the time. It was the first time an entity ever entered my room, as far as I know.
Yeah.
Now, looking back, entities probably enter our rooms all the time. We don't know it. They come and they go. We don't know it. They do it on a stealth mode, probably. I don't want to scare people because these entities were here before you were born, and they're going to be here after you're dead. They're here your entire life, and their interaction with us is very limited. So if you do not have any interaction and you see my story as crazy, you're lucky. I envy your perspective because, wow, you don't have to ever experience it. But after I said, nice to meet you, and I said a few more things. And I think I caught it off guard. I think I caught the demon off guard because I think the demon wanted me to be super scared.
Right.
And my reaction was, nice to meet you.
That's interesting.
Isn't that weird?
That is weird.
So when I say I met a demon, I even used the word meet when it was walking through my freaking body. And I said that. I moved around a little bit. My stomach felt like my intestines were moving. It felt like it was physically moving my intestines, and my spirit had a reaction to it as well.
Wow.
Impossible to describe. Yeah. It felt like my entire body and spirit was a jar of honey. I've already said this a couple times. It's a very bad analogy because it's such an obscure thing. It seemed like I was honey and it was a hand going through the honey. Very weird.
Whoa.
That's what it felt like. And it except in addition to those generic feelings, it felt like pure evil, pure hate, pure, I don't know, maybe envy and greed, just a lot of different hateful things rolled into one. Yeah. Hard to distinguish, kind of like a recipe of hate all mixed in there. Wow. And then I felt those emotions, and then it did a turn and it left toward the window. It's the only time a spirit has ever walked through me and then made a turn mid walking through me. Every other time, they're like, whoosh, 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 whoosh. It's usually a split second. It's usually no angle diversion, angle moving. But the thing moved at an angle. It walks. I heard it with my ears, physically sit on a cardboard box. I felt it physically and I felt it spiritually. And a couple other things, a couple other senses. I didn't smell it. I have to admit, I didn't smell anything. I'm trying to just count off the different senses. Yeah. If I know for a fact it was an actual entity, an actual being. My mind can't sit on a cardboard box in my closet. You know what I mean? I don't have the telekinesis ability to sit on things externally. It's impossible. Right. These beings exist. They're real. that entity has never walked through my body ever again. But 1 year later, I used to think it was 6 months later because I'm so bad at dates. I still don't know the exact 6 months that I lived at this place. And I still haven't been able to locate the rental receipts. But I should have a couple rental receipts in the garage. I should be able to find a couple because I had a receipt for every month. And I can figure it out. Math-wise, I can eventually figure out the exact 6 months it was. But the demon assigned 2 imp demons to harass me for 6 months, move objects. And you don't think of an object being moved. Like if I had some tape on the table, they definitely would eventually, maybe a week later, maybe a month later, they definitely eventually would move anything they could move. So if it wasn't too heavy, they would eventually. And I'm not saying over the space of a month they would move it. I'm talking over the space of 1 second they do this. And I would watch it with my eyes and see it, wide awake. And it happened so often that I was... Roger Morneau, one of the reasons I believe him is because he said the supernatural becomes natural after you see it a million times. The paranormal becomes normal after you see it 1,000 times. He said the impossible becomes mundane and everyday and commonplace when you live it and experience it on a day-to-day basis. That's exactly how I would describe my just adapting to the environment. I adapted to poltergeist moving stuff so much that I would be watching a movie or playing a video game and they would move stuff and I would be like, no big deal.
Yeah.
I didn't say that, but I thought that. I really would not verbally try to encourage them to, you could do better than that. Maybe I said that. Maybe I said that once in 6 months, but I wouldn't have said that regularly. I did get pissed off at them, but their job was to harass me and bother me. And
right.
The worst thing about being a poltergeist harassed for 6 months is the planet Earth, the scientific community, the psychologists, the doctors. They all would say that's fake. That's not real.
Yeah, I know.
So not only do you know a secret about the universe, very few people know, but that secret is seen as immediately crazy.
Yeah.
So it kind of sucks. It's a double-edged sword of, wow, I know behind the scenes a little bit of what's going on, and I can't say it without sounding like a lunatic. I'm not a crazy person that walks down the street that wears a cardboard. The end is nigh. I'm just a regular dude. I have never read a poltergeist book in my life. I had virtually had no opinion of them until they popped up and showed up.
Right.
And 6 months and no evidence. I would say I probably have
a lot of evidence.
More evidence than most poltergeist harassed people. Yep. Because every single book on this shelf I purchased because of the incidents I purchased after the fact. Who spends thousands of dollars when they live paycheck to paycheck on this type of crap? Someone that's interested in it, but I am not interested in it other than because of the poltergeist events. Who starts Mysterialis Ghost Investigation just for fun, willy-nilly? I guess some people could be into ghost investigating. I'm not. I'm not into it. I don't consider it a hobby that's fun. My one singular reason for even buying the $3,000 worth of ghost investigation equipment, or maybe it's $3,500, around there, something like that, from someone that lives paycheck to paycheck for the singular purpose of trying to prove. Now, I do have evidence. I do have proof. But you show that evidence and proof to someone that's extremely skeptical and they'll laugh at it. You show it to someone with an open mind that maybe they experience the same thing. They'll be like, wow, that's pretty good evidence. You can't prove it short of, like I said earlier, having 1 billion people with 1 billion cameras filming one event, proving that no one's doing it. One day later, people will start to disbelieve. 100 years later, no one will believe. If anything amazing happened, it'll be seen as a fairy tale, as mythology. So the people that say, prove it, man, I've already proven it to the best of my ability.
You really have. You've gone way out of your way. And to me, you've provided the best evidence I've ever seen.
Anyone that says, oh, prove it better, man, come to the grist mill with me. This ghost, this spirit.
I'm going to go. I want to go.
Brandon Young wants to go, but he lives on the East Coast right now. Well, so that's a legitimate reason. That's a legitimate reason. It's not. There soon, though. He visits the West Coast, and sometimes I'm not there at the same time. Yeah. And if Brandon's ever there when I'm there, most definitely there'll be two people. Not only will he have a camera and I'll have a camera. You know, I saw some night vision cameras for sale, and they sold out, and I didn't get them. Yeah. I didn't get them because I haven't paid off everything yet. I still have some debt for these things I've purchased specifically for investigating spirits and proving their existence. But I would say someone that says, that's not enough money, man. You need to invest $1 million. That's trolling. That gets to the level of trolling. Thanks for that's a hilarious troll. But Warren Buffett, he's not interested in investing in ghost investigations. He's interested in making money. That's it. So as far as I'm concerned, someone like Warren Buffett, maybe he has good charities. Maybe he has good charities.
He does. Yeah, he does.
But if I was a millionaire, my charities would all involve proving spirits exist.
Yeah.
Or perhaps the homeless. I would definitely try to help people down on their luck, you know.
For sure.
But spirits exist. Spirits are real. I can't prove it beyond what these people for the past thousands of years have been able to prove it. If they couldn't prove it for thousands of years, why would you put it on the shoulders of a YouTuber that's trying to prove it?
I know.
Your expectations are a little bit high. But I understand the want and the skepticism.
People venerate John D. and the Enochian angels and all that stuff. And it's like, well, is that proof?
Dr. John D. I think he does have journals upon journals with pretty good proof, pretty good evidence. He didn't have video cameras back then. He dealt with the tools that he dealt with. I think his spirit journals are pretty good proof and pretty good evidence. And to this day, Google and Wikipedia want to tell you that Dr. John D was an astronomer and a mathematician. They cut out his spirit contacts. They cut out his black magic. They cut out, most definitely, alchemy was just early chemistry.
Yep.
From a perspective, you could say chemists and alchemists are the same thing, just an ancient version. Most definitely. But spirits, talking to spirits, full-blown contact with a spirit, there's no modern day equivalent to that. It's still what it was in ancient times. Talking to spirits is talking to spirits. It's not a cover story for something else. Although people want to say that Medini, the spirit, never existed and that he was the first 00 agent. And the Queen Elizabeth I did give John D his secret 007 insignia. And that's where the 007 story and name originated. Apparently, he was the first 007 agent. Mm-hmm. But he had the help of Medini, an actual spirit entity. And that's a very inconvenient thing. But you can see in the museum to this day in England, I don't know, the British Museum. The British Library, wherever the case. I've never been there. They still have his original black mirror, his original crystal ball. I don't know if they are original pieces of wax with the seal of Solomon on it, but it looks real, looks original. It could be a reproduction, I guess, but because of those,
British Library,
people have replicated and tried to attempt his exact procedures. Some have been successful. I'm sure many have been unsuccessful. Magic is a very elusive science. It's not an exact science, and anyone who has approached it from a scientific perspective have noticed it's very elusive. Dr. Skinner is a really good example of someone who says he's trying to piece it together from a scientific perspective. He has guts to make a circle and summon a demon for science, that's way farther than I would ever go. But that's basically what John Dee did. John Dee was, I believe, a Catholic. And so he was really faced with eternal soul issues, and yet still wanting to get information from a spirit. You know, that's
right.
People call it necromancy. People call it demon worship, demonolatry. A lot of these spirits won't react unless you burn incense to them and give them offerings. Yeah. That's demonolatry, technically, and it's against the rules of a lot of different religions. It's just I see it admirable if you have a John Dee perspective. You really want to prove it for science, you know. But there is a level where it could spiral into insanity. Yeah, and a lot of people give warnings that it's not for everyone, and some people can't psychologically handle it. I know for a fact I can psychologically handle demon poltergeists. I didn't know that until after the fact. I didn't know. If someone were to propose that to me, I'd say, no, thanks, I'm good. I don't want to experience any of that. But it was forced upon me, kind of like an alien abduction. I don't even necessarily believe in a single alien abduction story. I think a lot of them could theoretically be spirit entities and people misinterpreting it as an alien. Because the shamans talk about taking shamanistic drugs, leaving their body. And it looks exactly like the visions of going through the ceiling into a different dimension.
BB asked a question. She said, John, have you had experience with more positive beings?
Okay. Well, I have. And you know that date thing I said? I memorize dates when something happens. But a super positive spirit walked through me. A very rare scenario. Extremely rare. We're talking so rare that, I mean, it's not ultra rare, but ever since the 2011 incidents, it's mostly negative. But on January 11th at 6 p.m., a super positive spirit walked through me. Right to left. It's interesting. The right to left is a very popular choice. But I would say the most positive of positive spirits walked through me, right to left. So most definitely, that's one of them. How do I know he was positive? Because it felt like pure love, pure peace, pure joy. A stark contrast between the Mysterialis 2018 spirit, which I considered a 6, which felt like evil, hate, just disgustingness. Your whole body feels it. Yeah. And on January 11th, 6 p.m. I've never mentioned it. I've never tweeted it because I don't go around saying, "Oh, a spirit walked through me today." It sounds crazy. It sounds insane. It sounds a little off. So I stopped doing that. But I will record if it's a noteworthy. And a super positive spirit walked through me on January 11th, 6 p.m. I started to take a nap. I got home from work. I don't know if it was the weekend, but whatever the case, I think maybe it was the weekend. Whatever. But I started to take a nap at 6 p.m. Super positive spirit walked through me. And very unusual, you know. It doesn't happen too often. So I think the positive forces have heard word about my super demonic YouTube videos. And they're like, oh, let's check this guy out, see if this guy's evil or what. And they checked me out, and they're like, yeah, this guy's not evil. And hopefully they're sticking around to help me. I mean,
I believe that. I really do believe that. I think you are gifted and protected. Just my thoughts.
Yeah, I've never had any encounters with a full-blown seeing an angel. I've never seen... the most I've seen a spirit would have been an orb. What?
Wasn't there like a skiing thing?
Well, there was an icy post office steps scenario I probably mentioned once, where I fell forward. This is me walking down the stairs, and I fell forward like this, right?
Whoa.
And I thought I was going to like crack my skull on the concrete because it was so snowy and icy that every step had ice on it.
Ooh.
But I held on to this is the post office it was in Nebraska at the time. I was living in Nebraska briefly. They have Indian summers, they call them.
Yep.
And it would snow one day and be sunny the next day. Very weird.
Sounds like New
But
England.
I think it was actually not an Indian summer. It was winter. They just call the winters that when it's sunny the next day in the winter. But I went to the post office to mail something, I guess, and I walked out and I fell like this.
Ooh.
And I was literally about to crack my skull.
Yeah.
And I fell like this. I went
What?
like this. And defying gravity, I landed like this.
Whoa.
And I don't know what happened, but it feels to me like an entity grabbed me and pulled me back.
You're right.
Because it, from a gravity perspective, looked like I was going to face first go down the stairs. And I landed on my feet perfectly. I was like, what? When it happened, I was like, what the heck?
What happened? Yeah.
So it feels like an actual angel or something grabbed me, repositioned me. It was weird. Very bizarre. I consider an angel having done that. So I do, they invisibly will help you out. That's one of the times I would say they probably did, but I can't prove it, obviously.
What about like angels taking the form of human beings sometimes?
Well, I can tell you this. One time, me and my brother, maybe my sister, me and my brother and my sister, we were driving down a hill. Our house happened to have a hill pretty close to it, a road. It was a totally paved road. And I was maybe 10 years old, maybe 9, somewhere around there. My brother's a couple years older than me. My sister is a couple years older than me. And we're racing down this hill, and it's particularly steep, way too steep. We didn't judge this race at all. Racy at the bottom of the hill. And what happened was me and my sister went fine, but my brother must have really wanted to win. And he was ahead of us, and he chucked it, and he like flipped and fell. And literally, there was no one around. Not a single human saw it but me and my sister. And we're talking no longer than 3 seconds later, 2 guys came out of nowhere and helped my brother. And they carried him home to my house. And then my parents took him to the hospital. To this day, I don't know where those 2 guys came from. They seemed to disappear as fast as they appeared. I didn't see where they came from. They could have been angels in human form. It's possible. I do believe that's a possibility.
Right on. Yeah,
have you ever had any stories like that?
Yes, I'll tell you 2. One time I was with my dad. I was like 7, 8 years old, and he always drove pickup trucks, and we were going over the Cambridge Bridge in Boston, and it's a very small bridge back in the day. It was like 2 lanes, and there was a Mack truck coming over the bridge, which you never really saw, and my dad was just driving, and we were 100% going to hit this thing. 100% going to hit this thing. And for whatever reason, like I remember closing my eyes, and then nothing happened. And we went, but that could be something else. But my dad thought that was an angel. The other part was I used to have a Suburban, a Chevy Suburban that's like an 8-seater luxury SUV car.
Mm-hmm.
And the brakes gave out on it during the winter. And I was driving to work. And I'm driving to work, and it's a 1-lane street, curvy street. And ahead of me is is 3 intersections. There's a busy street, freeway right here. And then across is a line, and there's a school bus because it's morning because kids are going to school and stuff. So I hit on the brakes because I see like a line of cars on both sides of the street. And I hit the brake, and the brakes don't work. So I start skidding, and I'm like, oh God, I'm gonna hit this car. And I turn the wheel, and I go up on like a lawn, right? And then I head back, and like for some reason the car just stopped. The car that let me go. I managed to go in between the lanes, and like the other cars kind of pulled over to the side a little bit, and I'm still out of control, and like I'm fishtailing, and I went in a complete 360. Luckily, the bus that was coming stopped right before that, and I didn't get an accident. And it 360'd and perfectly landed right in front of, like, as if I were like in traffic all along, and I just like cut all those people off. It was completely. I have no. And then one time, this is the other time that I can't explain this one. This is more like that could have been luck. But it felt like more than that, because my life was in danger. I remember my friend Tom and I got into an accident really bad. He borrowed his mom's fast car, and he was driving it around and playing rap music and stuff, and he wasn't paying attention, and we skidded, and the brakes locked up. We went into a ditch and went head on into a tree, going like 85 miles per hour, something like that. And airbags went off and everything like that. And I was stuck. We were stuck in the car. I looked over at my friend Tom. He was knocked out. And I was like, get me out of here, because I thought the car was going to explode or something like that. I had to break open the window. And as I'm deep in a briar bush, and I'm breaking open the window. And all of a sudden, the door rips open, and someone pulled me out, and I fell into the briar bush. I got cut and everything, and I was like, "Oh, good." And I got up, and no one was there. So
Wow.
Yeah, that was pretty freaky. But like it's almost like they wait till if they do. I think they do exist, but they don't intervene unless it's really like, I don't know, like it's like a real life or death situation, and that's not supposed to be your death, or something like that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like, they're not going to come. You know what I mean? I mean, you can pray. I think it's cool to like pray to them or ask them for protection and stuff. That's fine, but don't expect it.
Yeah, I think the rituals to summon angels, I personally don't think they're going to summon good angels.
No.
Good angels aren't going to come for a selfish ceremony. They're not going to come for something like that. They just won't. From my experience, they probably live by a code, and they just they can watch, and like you said, they can invisibly help us out. Probably when you're actually dead, you can see them,
Yeah, that's what I think too. Yeah, at the end of your life, when you put it, I think when you're at the pearly gates or whatever, and you do see your life in review, that you see it as your angel saw it, perhaps, and that's a teaching in Christianity too. But yeah, I think
So BB wants to post a angelic experience. Feel free to post that.
She's awesome. BB Blog is awesome, by the way. She is amazing. I totally vet for her. She is really cool.
If YouTube says no, it's because there's a URL auto feature but I'll click accept and say yes if that ever happens. But feel free to share your experiences. There's an automatic spam filter for people that check out this video, check out here. And I have URL on the default. But yeah. I would be happy to hear your experience, or you could talk about it in the chat. Or I'm sure it's hard to tell the whole thing in the chat.
She's amazing. She has this photo of her and from her prom on Twitter, and I'm probably gonna embarrass her now, but it's amazing. BB, you can tell me, but I think her mother, or was it her mother, like worked in London in like the 60s, and they have like these cool like Clockwork Orange type suits, and she's wearing like, I don't know, it's just fascinating. Like she looks amazing. It's like very hippie, but it's like she's going to her prom. She looks pretty good, but anyway, I'll show you that. BB's great. It'll be on my channel, she says, but I'd be delighted to share with you, John.
So Omar Corona says they are in all forms, even as little kids. They can become objects too, different levels. That reminds me of Kurt Cobain. He had an imaginary friend. I've never had an imaginary friend,
Yeah, no, neither.
So I can't even relate to kids that had imaginary friends. I remember when imaginary friends were popular when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
And I think for one day I pretended I had an imaginary friend, but I was like, this is too fake. I can't fake it. I don't have nothing.
Yeah.
Because it was such a popular subject. You would see it in movies and TV shows. All little kids had an imaginary friend, and I didn't. So I was like, I can't relate to that. Can't relate to that. But Kurt Cobain's imaginary friend left such a strong impression on him that it's pretty obvious people know about it if they're fans. He addressed his imaginary friend that his friends and family knew of, because he must have mentioned it to him. The name was Bada. Kurt's imaginary friend's name was Bada.
Oh,
he addressed it in the suicide note. That's the first
really?
To Bada. That was the first thing he wrote in the note. So it's like the last thing he thought of was his imaginary friend before he. So it's possible, theoretically speaking, that it wasn't an imaginary friend. Maybe it was a spirit. Who knows?
Wow, that's interesting, John.
So that's the only occult thing I can really connect to Kurt Cobain.
To Kurt Cobain?
That is, mysterious, and nobody really knows the details.
I mean, he was into reading like William S. Burroughs and
he did an entire album playing guitar while William Burroughs read his books. Yeah. I never bought that album. It's not a popular album, but it's interesting. No. I listened to one track, I think.
Yeah, there's a track on a box set, I think.
It goes on forever. Yeah. No, it's interesting. Yeah. But some kids perhaps are more open to it. I wasn't open to it as a kid. As a kid, I didn't have any imaginary friends. I had no concept of spirits and angels. I heard about them, but I put them in the category of, I don't know,
Yeah. Trying to think. No, I didn't really. If something miraculous or scary happened, I thought it was a dream or something like that. Or I never had an imaginary friend, But I have friends that say they did, and that's why some people think that, like, I heard recently someone say, "Oh, well, God is just, because you were shamed into having an imaginary friend when you were a kid, and now you're living it out, and now you found a place where it's permissible to have an imaginary friend." I don't know. That doesn't apply to me because I never had an imaginary friend,
Yeah. Have you ever seen that show Miracle Workers? Where they
I want to see it with Steve
Buscemi. You feel sorry for him from episode 1 because Steve Buscemi is an illiterate screw up of a god, and you kind of empathize with that. He's not trying to destroy the planet Earth. He just is a regular dude that happens to have the title God. And yeah, you can see in episode 6. I don't want to spoil it. If you want to watch the show,
I'll watch it.
But in episode 6, he wants to pitch a totally different planet and and kind of forget about Earth and just pitch a new idea of a new planet. And it's pretty funny. It's pretty funny, but it's also makes you feel sorry for him. It gives you sympathy for God, something that is very unpopular. Sympathy for the Devil is cool, rock and roll. The Rolling Stones had an album, Sympathy for the Devil, and you do see sympathy for the devil. Personally, go your own way, do what you want to do, but I have zero sympathy for the devil, and I would never have sympathy for the devil. I've heard stories of people that claim they have prayed for the devil so he gets better.
Oh, come on. What?
And that person later had occult. We're talking negative outcomes from praying for the devil. I mean, you can pray for whoever you want, do whatever you want, but in that person's case, negative things happened when they prayed for the devil. So, yikes, I wouldn't recommend it. I don't have any sympathy for him, whether you think he's real or not. Satan is just another word for what's that? What's the
adversary?
The adversary. It's such a generic word for adversary. So it's not an actual name, or maybe it is. Maybe we can reverse it. But he's doing his own thing, and I don't worry about it too much. You got to live your own life. Someone left a comment that said, "Oh yeah, this guy is something. He doesn't care. He's not scared of demons. So you got to watch out for this guy because he's not scared of demons."
Talking about you?
My response is, if you're scared of demons 24/7, then you're probably going to end up in an insane asylum. You're going to be just scared of life. Exactly. Don't be scared of demons. I don't put this stuff out to be fear-mongering. We can co-inhabit and live in a world where demons also try to live in it. That's what yin and yang is all about. That's what these black and white is all about, yin and yang. You can't destroy pure evil or negativity or another perspective or chaos. These are just permanent aspects of the universe. We have to coexist with them whether we like it or not, because we can't eradicate them from the universe.
Well, they aid in our purification, don't remember. Remember, they aid in our purification.
What's that?
Demons. Because, if they're testing you on some virtue or vice that you have to overcome sometimes. I'm not saying in all cases. I'm just saying a lot of cases. But the other thing, and so that's a good way to look at them, because God permits them, in a sense. Yeah. But the other thing is, was it Father Rippinger was talking about how he refused. He said he was talking about levels of spiritual warfare, and he's like, and people ask me how is it as an exorcist, and he says, well, it's pretty high. And he's like, do you get to have rest? And he's like, yeah, there's respite here and there. And what do you like to do? He's like, well, I like to drink scotch and smoke cigars, And the congregation laughs. And he's like, all right. He's like, he's like, and people ask me, Father, why do you like to do that? In moderation, of course, And he says, because I refuse to let demons rob me of a normal life. Mm-hmm. And that's, for that, now you said you used to go get Taco Bell after a demon encounter and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just to normalize it. You know what I'm saying? Just to be everything's normal. That's the smartest thing to do, man. It's just don't let demons rob you of a normal life. At the same time, I think it's one of the highest callings to try to figure out the spiritual realms and to try to see how it works,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Demons, they watch us all the time. And you could say angels watch us all the time. There's an opposition to all things. You can't destroy them. So I'm kind of confused by any type of war, between these entities. Because they can't kill each other, They have to coexist. If you killed every evil entity in the universe, then good would cease to exist, because good isn't good if it just is. If everyone's good, no one's good.
Right.
Good only is good as opposition to something that isn't it. So evil needs good, good needs evil for them to still remain on those sides.
Yes.
Roger Morneau said it was a political thing from these entities' perspectives, that it's just politics. They like the devil's politics better. But that seems too simplistic.
No, I think they made a choice to be with the devil.
Yeah, but
from the very beginning, and they can't. They because angels are beings of free will. I mean, of pure will and intelligence. That once they make a choice, they stick to it. And
yeah, I'm talking about the members of the organization, the human members. From the human members' perspectives, it's not just politics. There's
he did say about the UN, the guy at the UN.
I mean, most definitely, there are definitely some iffy parts to the story. Like the devil hangs out at the UN, so he can influence world leaders. Now, maybe he does. I don't know, because I don't have a schedule of what the devil does on a day-to-day basis. But that part definitely did seem a little bit sci-fi, you know.
No, but the thing is that when you did that video, it was while a certain president was at the UN stirring up some controversy. I think in the video you said something like, now, if this doesn't sound like somebody that's creating a lot of controversy at the UN and division and all this stuff, then, you know, he's like, I don't know, whatever. But you didn't say his name. I don't feel like I feel say his name, but.
Yeah, just politics in general. I don't talk about politicians, you know, both sides. Yeah. Even the best of the best politician. There was this one politician I barely followed, just what his platform was. Mm-hmm. And I thought he was the nicest guy. He looks super nice, and everything about him seemed positive and wholesome. And then you follow his career for 10 years, and he seems to be like every other politician, kind of like a scumbag. There's like a super scumbag that says things in the media purposefully just for a political reaction. Yeah. And when I see that political reaction stuff, I'm like, wow, this guy's not as good as I thought he was. It's too bad. I think politics in general corrupts human beings.
Well,
no matter how good they are, they have good intentions. I think politics corrupts humans. Just the profession
I've seen it
itself.
over time, and I've been very close to politics because I've been going to I've never told this before, but I'll tell it. My dad almost ran for lieutenant governor of Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. He's been involved in the Republican Party in Massachusetts for many, many, many years. And I got to meet Governor Weld, who became the ambassador for the Vatican. But I was like a little kid, and I got to go to Tip O'Neill's funeral and wake and the Kennedys and blah, 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 blah. So I've met many, many, many politicians behind the scenes at fundraisers. Listen, it's a game to them. It's like a Democrat and Republican. It's like once you get in there, they'll tolerate a little bit of change, but only within the parameters of which they decide. And the Republicans and the Democrats are shaking hands behind the scenes. They're partying behind the scenes. It's like a club. It's like one big club. You know what I mean? You get in there, and if you don't want to play by the rules of the club, then you're gone. You know what I mean? So yeah, someone can go in there with complete idealism, like some say JFK Jr. did, or JFK. Came in there with complete idealism, and then over years get corrupted by the system. It just happens.
Yeah. So that's why I'm not a fan of politics or talking about it.
No, me either. Yeah, I mean,
Art Bell's show Coast to Coast, he banned politics from the platform, except when he had his libertarian candidate on. That's the only time Art Bell broke the rule.
Oh, really?
That's too bad, because I like that rule. Never break it. Never break it.
Yeah, I agree.
So if you're Democrat, Republican, this or that. I personally don't care. I don't have any investment in it. I don't care.
Yeah.
When you have a perspective sort of like Buddhism, science versus religion, Democrat versus Republican, it's all a game. You can ascend above it and look down and go, I'm good. I'll stay out of that.
Yeah, but the problem is that sometimes it makes decisions that are important, So,
well, I personally stay out of it 100%. Though you got to understand, I'm 0% invested in who's the next president. I could care less.
Oh yeah, I know. I know, right? Yeah.
But here is something from the book by Cavendish, The Black Arts. This book is a mishmash, hodgepodge of a bunch of different stories he just collected and put together.
Cavendish is very famous, yeah.
And he's a famous occultist. He has written many books. This one's pretty interesting. And here's a part I just randomly flipped to just to see if there's something I could talk about. And he's talking about ritual magic. He says, if the spirit refuses to depart after being summoned by the magician, the situation is extremely dangerous. The magician must summon the full resources of his will, repeat the license to depart, and burn vile-smelling substances. Even if no spirit has appeared at all and the operation seems to have been a failure, the license to depart must be spoken, because the spirit may be lurking outside the circle, unknown to the magician.
Whoa.
And that is 100% accurate. I would say unknowingly, on accident, when I performed the Corners of Rooms experiment, a demon interpreted it as a magic ceremony, and that demon hung out for 24 hours, unbeknownst to me. I started to take a nap at 12 a.m., 24 hours after the experiment. The spirit walked through me right to left, pure evil. That spirit was literally lingering, watching me for 24 hours, hoping that I'm going to summon and do some magic or something related to that, because perhaps this area that I live in, perhaps there's no one communicating with spirits anywhere. So maybe that might have been a magnet. I definitely wanted a spirit to set off the device, but I just wanted to test whether the device worked, whether ghost investigating is real or fake. I had very generic expectations. I didn't intend on summoning a freaking demon, but it definitely attracted a demon. And to this day, people say, you set it off, man. You did it yourself. No, I didn't.
No.
I touched the microphone.
You did it live, right?
And that's when, well, I didn't do the first one live. I recorded it. But I touched the microphone, and that's when the spirit decided to do it, because it wanted people to think it has something to do with my microphone.
Oh, yeah.
But the second and third time it didn't. No microphones were touched. I was just talking about my
you had it recorded and just kept going off. Yeah.
My Winchester Mystery House story I was telling about how I walked through and I felt a spirit in the lobby in the tiny room. And I walked through the spirit as opposed to the spirit walking through me. Rare scenario. But it made the spirit interested because I was talking about other spirits. That's definitely something that will attract other spirits outside of a ceremony, just talking about spiritual things.
Yes.
And a lot of people interpret spiritual things as, oh, it's spiritual, man. Well, usually if someone says it like that, they're talking about drugs or something, which can induce some spiritual type things. But when I use the word spirituality, I usually connect it with spirits on an extremely literal level. And, freaks people out. I just remember this one guy. He said he was super spiritual. And this was back when MySpace was big. So I checked out his MySpace page. And his whole MySpace page was pictures of women in bikinis.
Oh, God.
And then there would be a psychedelic mushroom. And then a bikini, psychedelic mushroom, bikini, psychedelic mushroom. And then maybe one of those patterns with sacred geometry and then bikini. And from his perspective, that was spirituality. From my perspective, my perspective is going to be varied and different and vastly unpopular, but it has to do with actual spirits, not with psychedelic geometry and bikinis. Although, spirits are definitely attracted to sacred geometry. That is true.
Yeah, that seems to be true. Yeah.
But this stream is coming to a close. My channel got related to Joe Rogan's channel, and they recommended, your channel's like Joe Rogan. I guess I could be worse off because he does have one of the more popular channels. Probably, I would say easily the top 100 most popular channels is Joe Rogan's.
Oh,
You can't always judge but he doesn't have 10 million. Some people have fake 10 million. He has real 6 million,
Yeah.
So, but I guess it could be worse. It could be worse. But they also associated me with some drug channel. And I
saw that. Yeah.
I only talked about drugs in 2 videos over the past 10 years. 2 videos. 10 years, 2 videos. So maybe I should make 10 videos on just ghost in the title or something. I'm just trying to figure out some way to make it more associated with. I'm not associated with a single ghost hunting channel.
I know it.
Seems a little bit odd,
Yeah, it is odd.
But we got to get going pretty soon because I didn't have dinner yet. I haven't had any dinner.
Oh, really? Me either.
And since everything's closed, I got to go to Jack in the Box. I know it's bad for me. It's bad. I know it's bad for me, but it's open. So
is it open?
They're open 24 hours a day. Yeah.
We used to have a Jack in the Box back in the 80s. We had a Jack in the Box. And or even before that, I think it was my mom's first job to work at a Jack in the Box. It was an old Jack in the Box. But let's see, Saroth the Mage is here.
Oh, cool.
And
sorry, Saroth the Mage. We're not talking about magic too much anymore. We got to get going. But we will talk about magic in a future live stream. But I have a Jack in the Box story that's really boring. So in the 90s, Jack in the Box had the patty melt. And clearly they did not invent the patty melt. They just had their own version of the patty melt. Very famous sandwich for many years.
Yeah.
And this was pre-Sourdough Jack. It was before the Sourdough Jack existed. The Jack in the Box had the patty melt. The patty melt was sourdough, beef patty, piece of cheese, I think onions, that I always said, please take off the onions.
I hate onions, yeah.
It was my favorite sandwich at Jack in the Box, the patty melt. And then this new thing came along called the Sourdough Jack, which was exactly the patty melt, except no onions and bacon and tomato. And maybe a different kind of cheese, maybe the same. But it was basically a patty melt with bacon and tomatoes. And I was like, wow, this is pretty good. And then they took away, when the Sourdough Jack became a huge hit, they took away the patty melt. They took it away. They dissolved it, disappeared it off the menu. And now, brand new, you can see on the drive-through menus, or at least in the store, brand new in the Jack in the Box, a brand new sandwich, the patty melt. No. They brought it back. They brought it back.
It's like saying the brand new McRib.
And I went through, and they're like, oh, would you like to try a brand new patty melt, our new sandwich? And I said, yeah, that's really delicious. You used to have that in the 90s. It's not brand new. And it caught him off. It caught him off guard. I didn't mean to be mean or disrespectful.
No. That's fun. I feel like.
And then I ordered something else. I'm probably going to order the munchie meal because past 9 p.m. it's only $6 something. And Jack in the Box does not sponsor this channel. I just happen to be.
Well, if you're out there, Jack in the Box.
I'm a true. You got to understand. I focus on details to an exact degree, knowing that in the 90s they had the patty melt. Around the year 2000, they stopped carrying it. They brought it back in 2019. I focus on exact things. Just as exact as that patty melt history of Jack in the Box is, my spirit encounters are just as real. And it's too bad because I saw an article of some crazy gunman, crazy killer, and he said he heard demons and that he might use that as an insanity plea. And I don't want to talk about that. Videos like that get taken down. Just not mention any of that stuff. But I went on to say, after someone said, do you hear demons? No, I don't hear demons. I'm not crazy, all right? Although I will walk around with a recorder and after the fact sometimes capture voices. Are they demons or are they not? It's open to interpretation. On Ghost Adventures, if it says, I'm a demon, it's pretty obvious it's a demon, unless they're doing a voice.
Right.
There's always that deniability factor. Is it entertainment? Is it real? What I do is the real deal. It's not entertainment. It's not fake. I will ghost investigate, but I'm hesitant. I'm hesitant to do it because is the spirit going to follow me home after I do it? I don't know. Like the spirit that lingers outside the circle of the magician. It's possible they can follow you home and linger for 24 hours, if not 24 weeks,
24
if not
years.
24 years. If an entity is 1 billion years old, the lifespan of a human is nothing. They can have the patience to hang out in the corner of your room for 10 years straight. That's a scary thought, and I try not to think about that. It's kind of scary.
No,
but
but
don't let it control you. It's not a big deal.
It's better to accept it and move on and then just have a normal life,
Yeah. Well, I was going to talk about something, but I forgot. I forgot what it was.
Oh, no. Jack in the Box?
Oh, yeah. Spirits exist just as much as Jack in the Box exists. And I'm going to go get some Jack in the Box. Going to go get some. I did, during experiment, I think 2. I turned on my GoPro. And I went to go get Jack in the Box. I got a munchie meal, the same thing. And because it's $6 after 9, but before 9, it's like $8. So you're saving a good $2, good value. But it comes with 2 tacos. It comes with some type of cheese sandwich with beef, and it melts and it's delicious. An extra piece of bread you don't need, kind of like they're copying that what is that? The Big Mac, or no? Is that the
Big Mac?
Whatever that McDonald's one with the extra piece of bread, and they throw half curly fries and half regular.
No.
What's that? See, I'm not big at.
Yeah, it's a
Big Mac. Yeah,
pretty sure.
And as I'm driving, I put on the GoPro. I turn it on. I record the corner of the room, and I uploaded this, and I drove to Jack in the Box. And on the way back, I didn't record myself recording me, so I couldn't have added that because I didn't think about that in advance. It's kind of a scary experiment. I don't think I'm going to do it again. But on the way back, I said, hey, if there's a spirit in my room, try to knock over the GoPro, try to touch it, try to do something. And I listened to the audio and video, and it clearly tapped on it. And maybe it was too heavy for it to move. And you clearly hear some dragging some plastic behind it, sound. And I wish I had another camera recording the GoPro from a distance. Maybe we could have seen what it moved. But the spirit, I don't know if it heard me in my car, but spirits, time and space is a little different to them. They can probably jump within seconds everywhere. The fifth dimension, they probably see time vastly differently. And I think
before we go, let me ask you this: I finally heard someone in Get It Right, the dimension thing, right? Mm-hmm. They said that 4D is movement essentially,
mm-hmm.
And so then they were like, no. What they mean by is the 5D is where the spirit's realm is. Mm-hmm. And I thought, okay, that makes sense. But are you of the, what's your scientific view on time and space? Is it Einsteinian in the sense that it's one fabric? Or is it even at the level of multiverse or string theory? What do you agree with?
Well, my perspective on the fourth dimension is exactly what Einstein said. And one time someone said, "Oh, what is that? What's Einstein? What did Einstein say?" And I had to find the formula. I had to find the name of it. I had to find proof that other scientists around the world verified it.
Yeah.
And I bookmarked it somewhere. I got a bookmark on one of my computers of what it is and the actual name of it. That space is time, time is space. There's no such thing as space without time. They're interconnected as the same thing. You can't separate time from space.
Right.
They're the same thing. Space, time, and time, space are the same thing. And, Einstein said it's like a sheet, and you've seen 1,000 teachers throw the bowling ball on the trampoline, and it goes down. And that's what space and time is. I guess it's some type of fabric that is permanently interwoven with the third dimension, that we can't even occupy 3D without being in space and time, because there's no such thing as space and time existing in a 2D perspective. It only exists in 3D and above. Right. How above, we don't know. All I can say is spirits popping from one side of the planet to the other in 1 second is very possible, because somehow they're above time. But even though they are above time, I think they are tied to time. I think they're tied to it from a different perspective. Right. Maybe they have to wait like we do, but they don't have the burden of having to travel. They could just think and bam. So I don't know. I focus on spirituality, but I also focus on science the best I can. That's my perspective on the fourth dimension.
Brilliant. Yeah. All right.
So what's your perspective on the fourth dimension?
No. Okay. So no, there's different hypotheses, but I do think, like, your illustration was really good about time and space being a fabric, being like, like you said, like a trampoline net and like a bowling ball sitting through would show that. But another good way to think about it, and is think about relativity and stuff like that, is what they used to call India rubber. You know what India rubber is?
No.
Okay. Do you remember that, like, silly putty that you used to get, and you could put it on like a newspaper and then you peel off the newspaper? Well, that's India rubber.
Okay.
So silly putty is another word for it. So time and space is like that in a sense. You can like, you can stretch it and you can play with it in that way. But yeah, you're right. A fourth dimensional object, a three-dimensional object, has to exist in time and in space. And I do think that there are fifth dimensional entities that are tied to time. They're not exactly outside of time. I think only God, and I mean, I'm not pushing on religion. I'm just saying architect or God, or in your soul, the absolute part of your soul, the Atman or whatever, exists outside of time, because you can be aware of time. Like, I can say, oh, I know this is time. I'm in a time. I'm feeling this. I'm talking to John. But that's not me. I'm not exactly all those things. I'm not my voice speaking right now. I'm something else. There's something more to me, because I can observe that. There's something of this absolute observer. So, yeah, I don't know. That's kind of a ramble. But, I do believe that these demons are tied to time, and they know that. And so is the angels, because there is a beginning. I do believe there is a beginning to the universe, middle, and an ending. Like, there's an alpha and an omega to this experiment, this type of universe. Or it's hard to tell. It's really hard to tell. But that's at least, like, the theory that we're working with, that Einstein's working with. He didn't like, the Copenhagen translation of quantum physics, for example, which said proposed multiverse theory and uncertainty principle and things like that, because he said that God doesn't play dice,
Yeah. Yeah, I personally don't believe in parallel universes for
Me
infinity.
either.
I don't believe in that. I think that's personally some type of it's almost like a mathematical mockery of God is what that is.
Exactly.
Because if there's infinity parallel universes, then this one doesn't matter. It's kind of like a mathematical
nihilism,
even relatable to, say, reincarnation. Oh, there's infinity universes and infinity me's, and I'll come back on infinity time, so nothing matters, who cares?
Yeah.
Some people might take that the wrong way and go crazy. I understand the perspective of people saying, oh, you just want to control, you want to fall into the control. But I know some secrets of the universe. I know spirits hang out and walk around, and talking about it, the elite, I guess they do try to keep a lid on it, perhaps. But I don't know how much the elite know about these entities. I don't know. I don't know.
Been looking into that, John, and have you ever heard of an author called Dennis Wheatley? He wrote a book called The Devil Rides Out.
Okay.
You might know that because it was turned into a film, maybe, with Jimmy Page.
Okay.
Soundtrack, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So Dennis Wheatley, and he wrote all these books about the royalty in England, at least, and we know for a fact it was in France with, like, you know, all kind. I mean, the Duke of whatever, Orleans, and you know, like plenty of. I could just whatever. No, even Napoleon. All the aristocracy of the world was introduced to the occult arts by, in a large part, by John Dee.
Yeah.
He went around Europe. He went around to Bavaria, the court of.
Oh, you're right. That emperor, or whatever the guy's title was, the Baron or whatever. Yeah, he was obsessed with the occult. He basically hired John Dee.
Yep.
And then he hired Edward Kelly to make gold for him. And when Edward Kelly couldn't alchemically make gold, he saw it as a fraud, at least Edward Kelly's angle. Edward Kelly seemed to almost lie to people and say he could create gold, almost to build hype for the funding to actually try to do it. I don't know. It's hard to say whether he ever believed in it or not, but I think he did, because he believed in spirits. So he was open to the perspective, at least I think a good part of his life. And then maybe when he found out he couldn't do it, maybe he started, if it was his profession, because only a son can gold be made in. You can't just make it.
Right. But, you know, like, did you ever read that, like, apparently he said that the angel said to him, the Enochian angel said to him that John Dee must share his wife.
Yeah. See, that's coming in part 3 or 4.
Oh,
that's why I was hesitant to making that, because it's kind of freaky. But that alone, when Medini asked John Dee to share his wife with Edward Kelly and vice versa, swingers of ancient time, I mean, not ancient times, but what was this? What was this? The 1400s? I can't remember. It was a long time ago.
1500s.
1500s, 1600s, whatever the case. I'm bad with dates.
Yeah, Elizabeth first, yeah.
But that is proof that Medini was never an angel of goodness, but always a demon from the get-go. Only a demon would ask a Catholic to break the thou shalt not adultery. Only a demon.
That's a good point.
So that's proof, if it happened. Now, an atheist perspective would say it was just Edward Kelly was hot on John Dee's wife. That's what an atheist would say. But the result was what? John Dee only did that because Medini promised the Enochian alphabet. If Edward Kelly did it just to get with John Dee's wife, he wouldn't create an impossible alphabet, which even linguists to this day say is linguistically accurately a real at least from their linguistic perspective, I'm not an expert on that, but they say it looks like an actual society's actual alphabet. It looks like a human couldn't have concocted this.
No,
if
for sure.
Edward Kelly, I slept with his wife, let me make some fake alphabet. Sure,
Right.
he could have made some fake alphabet and lied. But we have hundreds of hours of spirit communications. I don't think Edward Kelly was that good of a Robin Williams improv expert to come up with hundreds of hours of dialogue from a spirit that wasn't real. And I don't think from the linguist's perspective, he could have on the fly came up with Enochian, which to this day, people dismiss it, but it's pretty good proof that they did have contact with a spirit. But I was going to say, E equals MC squared. Beam me up, Mr. Scott said the MC is where he hid the good stuff or something.
Well,
even
speed of light.
Even as a
And
15-year-old, I was a huge fan of Einstein.
Yeah,
I memorized E equals MC squared. Yeah. Energy equals mass times the acceleration of the speed of light squared. And I even tried to reverse it. I tried to mathematically reverse it, and I couldn't because I suck at math. But
No, you're not. No.
But Gravity Probe B proved Einstein's theories true. They sent up tiny spheres into space, which could note the minute changes of a sphere in zero gravity.
Well, they actually did that with the eclipse. That's one of the ways they proved Einstein completely right too.
There's plenty of proofs Einstein's theories were legit.
Yeah, 100%.
But
I think you're right about the multiverse theory being like not true, because there's the universe, and that could contain multiverses, but there's a universe. You know what I mean? And it is a mockery of God in a way, and it's really interesting.
Yeah, it is, because it says God has not only a plan B, but a plan infinity, A to Z through the alphabet a billion times.
Yeah,
that's stupid. It makes a good sci-fi background for the show Sliders. In the show Sliders, they're trying to find their timeline.
Good movie.
And that's the whole show. Find their Earth.
That's a great show.
I think John Teeter was inspired, and this is Maury Haber, or at least that's my theory. The Haber family was inspired by the Sliders TV show, which was on the Sci-Fi Channel, because they were constantly trying to find their. And this is a 90s show pre-John Teeter. So it was clearly out there for anyone to grab and create some fiction with it, some fan fiction. But I think John Teeter's Sliders fan fiction, because they're constantly trying to find their timeline. They jump into the cliche, a super evil timeline, a super paradisical timeline. They keep going to different timelines. And I know there are specific many episodes where they're like, oh, this is my neighborhood, but it looks different because the buildings are different.
Yeah.
The building is gone. Oh, the building is gone. And this is pre 9/11. And so the Teeter, or the Habers, whatever the case, they got that missing building idea from Sliders. And then people said, oh, it's proof of 9/11. They just said missing building, changed neighborhood. Exactly aligned straight out of Sliders, if you ever watched that show. It's a pretty good show.
Great show.
But we got to get going. Higher dimensional entities do exist in the fifth dimension, sixth dimension, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, whatever the case, however high it goes. Theoretical quantum physicists, actually Dr. Hawking, who was an extreme atheist. Yes. He used God as an analogy, but later in his life, he did say God probably doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Hawking said, the universe might have bubbles, and there might be other universes bubbling off of our universe. And I don't believe in unlimited universes, but I do believe that could be a possibility, that bubbling of a different universe is bubbling off. I think that's possible. Why couldn't the architect create, a couple other here and there, or perhaps, goes into the deeper realm of episode 6 of Miracle Workers. You have to watch that episode to see what I'm talking about. But, you know, I think different branches could exist of totally different people living on totally different planets.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's unlimited this planet with unlimited possibilities. That's kind of a atheistic sci-fi dream, you know. I don't personally subscribe to that. But yeah, I got to get going too. Thank you for watching. I greatly appreciate all you're doing. When I do this, when I say be seeing you, it's inspired by Patrick McGoohan, 1967, The Prisoner. One of my favorite shows of all time. I got a bunch of stuff.
Yep. John was using it way before Michael Tsarion was using it.
I've been using it since, 2008.
You know who I'm
2009.
talking about? Tsarion. He always be seeing you. Like his logo for his media company is Patrick McGoohan doing this.
Well, I don't know who that is. Who is that?
Michael Tsarion. He's like everyone in the chat will probably know who he is.
Okay. What I'm saying is recently in the news, some horrible guy that committed a horrible thing against many good people. Yeah. He used that, and the media really hyping the spin of it being this and that of a particular racist thing. In no way, shape, or form. This channel is inclusive of anyone, any background, any culture, any race, any religion, any continent, any origin. All of our spirits are the same, color, unless you're going to talk to someone that can see the aura as a blue or a green. But what I'm saying is, I'm inclusive, and I've used this as be seeing you. It's the goodbye greeting that Patrick McGoohan basically invented for the TV show 1967, The Prisoner. It's kind of like a futuristic greeting.
Yeah, but it's like a hello and goodbye.
Yeah, it was for hello and goodbye. And now it's being used as a meme, and it has been for many years. But when I saw that evil guy do it, and he does it in a different context, I've only done it like this. Right. I just want to make it crystal clear. In no way, shape, or form do I consider myself better than anyone else. Everyone else is of equal ground with me. I'm not better than anyone else. If anything, I'm lower. You can't put yourself up and say you're better than anyone else. When I see that, it kind of makes me sick,
Yeah.
Everyone has the equal ability to become just as great as anyone.
Absolutely.
But you're spiritually dead if you succumb to committing crimes of horrible things like that guy did. I don't want to say his name. If I even mention it, this channel gets deleted.
You know what? When things like that happen, I just don't even... I hear about them. I don't read further into it. There's something that just repulses me. And so I don't even know I really don't know the name. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either.
So...
But until next time, I'm sorry for the long-windedness. This was a good, oh my gosh, what is this, almost 4 hours?
Oh, really?
Until next time, I'll see you next time with John Razimus with Mysterialis, Ghost Investigation. And thank you for Brandon Young for joining us.
Thanks,
More
John.
episodes coming soon. Stay tuned. YouTube.com/hoaxhunter. Be seeing you.